And my father, Walter A. Matuza Jr. We miss you, Dad. We love you. Jesse's graduating college this year. Woohoo. Nico and his girlfriend are doing good. He should be doing good soon. Jesse's doing good in baseball. We wish you were here to watch him every day. You know, we know you're up there watching him. Wish you were here still taking us fishing all the time. Love you. Miss you. Keep it good, Man of Steel. Mommy's doing great as well.
And my father, James M. Gartenberg, go blue.
Jacqueline Delane Aldred Frederick.
David D. Alger.
Ernest Alikakos.
Edward L. Allegretto.
Eric Allen.
Joseph Ryan Allen.
Richard Dennis Allen.
Richard L. Allen.
Christopher E. Allingham.
Anna S. W. Allison.
Janet Marie Alonso.
Anthony Alvarado.
Antonio Javier Alvarez.
Victoria Alvarez Brito.
Telmo E. Alvier.
Cesar Amaranto Alvier.
Tariq Amanullah.
Angelo Amaranto.
James M. Amato.
Joseph Amatuccio.
Paul W. Ambrose.
Christopher Charles Amoroso.
Craig Scott Amundsen.
Kazuhiro Anai.
Calixto Anya Jr.
Joseph P. Enchundia.
Kermit Charles Anderson.
Yvette Constance Anderson.
John Jack Andrachio.
Michael Rourke Andrews.
Jean Ann Andraki.
Sue Nia Ang.
Joseph Angelini Sr.
Joseph John Angelini Jr.
David Lawrence Angel.
Mary Lynn Edwards Angel.
Laura Anguletta.
Doreen J. Angrasani.
Lorraine Antigua.
Sema David Aoyama.
And my father, James R. Ostrowski.
And my dad, Michael G. Jacobs, whose grandchildren, Mia, Gretchen, Bryce, William, and Riley, he'll never get a chance to meet. We love you, Dad.
Peter Paul Apollo.
Faustino Apostol Jr.
Frank Thomas Aquilino.
Patrick Michael Araños.
David Gregory Arche.
Michael George Archinsky.
Louis Arena.
Barbara Jean Astigui.
Adam P. Arias.
Michael J. Armstrong.
Jack Charles Aaron.
Joshua Todd Aaron.
Richard Avery Arenaro.
Myra Joy Aronson.
Japhet Jesse Arier.
Carl Francis Asaro.
Michael A. Asiak.
Michael Edward Asher.
Janice Marie Ashley.
Thomas J. Ashton.
Manuel O. Asatimbe.
Greg A. Atlas.
Gerald Thomas Atwood.
James Artifred.
Louis F. Aversano, Jr.
Ezra Aviles.
Sandy Ayala.
Arlene T. Babakitis.
Eustace R. Bacchus.
John J. Badagliega.
Jane Ellen Baszler.
Robert J. Bellwalter.
Andrew J. Bailey.
Brett T. Bailey.
Garnett Ace Bailey.
Tatiana Bakalinskaya.
Michael S. Backish.
Sharon M. Balcom.
Michael Andrew Bain.
Catherine Bantis.
And my uncle and godfather, Police Officer Glenn Karen Pettit. 15 years ago, I was too young to walk or talk. However, today, I stand proud, now able to read the name of my hero. Every day, I try my very best to make you proud. I know you are always watching over me until we meet again.
Wow, Jim. Kills, as many refer to you. I can't believe it's been 15 years. Sometimes it feels like yesterday, others an eternity. You know, I'm really at a loss for words, and people who know that mean that. Since you died 15 years ago, there's been a void left in our family no amount of time has healed. Till we meet again one day.
Gerard Baptiste,
Walter Barron,
Gerard A. Barbara,
Paul Vincent Barbaro,
James William Barbella,
Victor Daniel Barbosa,
Christine Jana Barbuto,
Colleen Ann Barco,
David Michael Barkway,
Matthew Barnes,
Melissa Rose Barnes,
Sheila Patricia Barnes,
Evan J. Barron,
Renee Barrett Arjun,
Arthur Thaddeus Barry,
Diane G. Barry,
Maurice Vincent Barry,
Scott D. Bart,
Carlton W. Bartels,
Guy Barsby,
Ina B. Basina,
Alicia Christine Burton Barsmajan,
Kenneth William Beznicki,
Stephen Joseph Bates,
Paul James Battaglia,
W. David Bauer,
Ivan Luis Carpio Bautista,
Marlon Capito Bautista,
Mark Lawrence Bavis,
Jasper Baxter,
Lorraine G. Bay,
Michelle Beal,
Todd M. Beamer,
Paul Frederick Bettini,
Jane S. Beatty,
Alan Anthony Bevan,
Lawrence Ira Beck,
Minette Marie Beckles,
Carl John Bedigian,
Michael Ernest Beekman,
and my husband, Ian Schneider. There isn't a day that goes by that we don't think about you, talk about you, or laugh about you. You always had us laughing. Rachel, Jake, and Sophie have grown to be amazing young adults. I know how proud you would be. We love you, miss you, and you will forever be in our hearts as well as the thousands of other hearts that you have touched. Yo, dude.
and my father, who I know is always with me, Glenn Wall.
Maria A. Bear,
Max J. Bilke,
Yelena Belilovsky,
Nina Patrice Bell,
Debbie S. Bellows,
Stephen Elliott Belson,
Paul M. Benedetti,
Denise Lenore Benedetto,
Brian Craig Bennett,
Eric L. Bennett,
Oliver Bennett,
Margaret L. Benson,
Dominic J. Berardi,
James Patrick Berger,
Stephen Howard Berger,
John P. Bergen,
Alvin Bergson,
Daniel David Bergstein,
Graham Andrew Berkeley,
Michael J. Berkeley,
Donna M. Bernards,
David W. Bernard,
William H. Bernstein,
David M. Beret,
David Shelby Berry,
Joseph John Berry,
William Reed Bethke,
Yanene Bitru,
Timothy D. Betterly,
Carolyn Mayer Bug,
Edward Frank B.A.,
Paul Michael Bayer,
Anil Tahiram Baharvani,
Bella J. Buchan,
Shimi D. Biegalason,
Peter Alexander Belfield,
William G. Biggert,
Brian Eugene Bilcher,
Mark Bingham,
Carl Vincent Beanie,
and my loving cousin, Howard G. Gelling Jr., who I know I speak for my entire family, who hasn't been down here, but we love you and we miss you every day.
And my brother, James Brian Riley. Jim, we love you, we miss you, we thank you for all of the great times that we shared. You truly were a shining star in our family. We just miss you every day. We are so proud of all that you accomplished, and you're such an inspiration to all of us and always will be. We love you.
Gary Eugene Bird.
Joshua David Birnbaum.
George John Bishop.
Chris Romeo Bashendet.
Jeffrey Donald Bittner.
Albert Balewa Blackman Jr.
Christopher Joseph Blackwell.
Carrie Rosetta Blackburn.
Susan Leigh Blair.
Harry Blanding Jr.
Janice Lee Blaney.
Craig Michael Blass.
Rita Blau.
Richard Middleton Blood Jr.
Michael Andrew Bacardi.
John Paul Bocchino.
Michael L. Bocchino.
Susan M. Bocchino.
Dira Francis Bodley.
Bruce Douglas Bone.
Mary Catherine Murphy Bofa.
Nicholas Andrew Bogdan.
Darren Christopher Bohan.
Lawrence Francis Boiseau.
Vincent M. Boland Jr.
Torri Hamzavi Balarki.
Alan Bondarenko.
Andre Bonar Jr.
Colin Arthur Bonnet.
Frank J. Bonamo.
Yvonne Lucia Bonomo.
Sean Booker Sr. Canfield,
I'm sorry.
Canfield D. Boone.
Mary Jane Booth.
Sherry Ann Bordeaux.
Christine Bordenabe.
Jerry J. Board.
Martin Michael Borachevsky.
Richard Edward Bosco.
And my uncle, Francisco Elado Munoz. We miss and love you so much, and I know you're watching over my titi. And to our first responders and all departed, you will never be forgotten.
And my father, Francisco Eligio Bordier. I love you, Papi, and we miss you, and I know you're watching over us.
My husband, Howard Kestenbaum, worked on the 103rd floor of the World Trade Center. 15 years is a long time and a short time ago. Those of us who have lost our loved ones to violence form a kind of group. We know the shock and grief and anger that follows, the heartache that won't heal. I've learned, too, that connection can also bring us comfort. My daughter and I are Jewish, and a few years ago, we went to speak to a Muslim family in Amman, Jordan, they lost their oldest son in a terrorist attack. As we all tightly held each other's hands, we knew, we understood each other's loss. The things we think separate us really don't. We're all part of this one earth in this vast universe. We're all ordinary and we're all special. We're all connected. We waste precious time by thinking otherwise. My husband was an astrophysicist, and I used to call him my star polisher. This poem always makes me think of him. Somebody has to go polish the stars. They're looking a little bit dull. Somebody has to go polish the stars, for the eagles and starlings and gulls have all been complaining they're tarnished and worn. They say they want new ones we cannot afford. So please get your rags and your polishing jars. Somebody has to go polish the stars.
Klaus Bota.
Carol Marie Bouchard.
J. Howard Bolton.
Francisco Eligio Bordier.
Thomas Harold Bowden Judah.
Donna M. Bowen.
Kimberly S. Bowers.
Veronique Nicole Bowers.
Larry Bauman.
Sean Edward Bauman Jr.
Gennady Boyarsky.
Gary R. Box.
Alan P. Boyle.
Pamela Boyce.
Alfred J. Braca.
Michael Boyle.
Kevin Hugh Bracken.
Sandra Conity Brace.
David Brian Brady.
Sandy Wa Bradshaw.
Nicholas W. Brandemarty.
Alexander Braginski.
David Reed Gamboa Brandhorst.
Daniel Raymond Brandhorst.
Patrice Brout.
Michelle Renee Bratton.
Ronald Michael Breitweiser.
Lydia Estelle Bravo.
Frank H. Brennan.
Edward I. A. Brennan III.
Peter Brennan.
Michael E. Brennan.
Daniel J. Breithel.
Thomas Moore Brennan.
Jonathan Eric Briley.
Gary Lee Bright.
Paul Gary Bristow.
Mark A. Brisman.
And my husband, Joseph John Berry. I will always love you and miss you, as do your children, their spouses, your 8 beautiful grandchildren, your family and mine, and all your friends. We carry your heart in our hearts, Joe.
Today, my daughter, Brooke Alexandra Jackman, Today we remember and honor all those lost and salute all those who keep us safe. My Brookie Cookie, the Brookster, we have missed you so much over these past 15 years. You were only 23 years old. You never got to meet your nieces and cousins, but we tell them about how kind, compassionate, and beautiful young woman that you were. I hope you know that you are always in our hearts. We will always love you. And don't forget to take care of Daddy.
Mark Francis Broderick.
Herman Charles Brockhammer.
Keith A. Broomfield.
Bernard C. Brown II.
Janice J. Louise Brown.
Lloyd Stanford Brown.
FDNY Captain Patrick John Brown.
Bettina B. Brown Draper.
Mark Bruce.
Richard George Burhart.
Firefighter Andrew Brunn.
Vincent Edward Brownton.
Fire Marshal Ronald Booker.
Brandon J. Buchanan.
Firefighter Greg J. Buck.
Dennis Barkley.
Nancy Claire Boucher.
Patrick Joseph Booth.
Edward John Bulaga Jr.
Stephen Bruce Benin.
Christopher L. Burford.
Matthew J. Burke.
Thomas Daniel Burke.
William Francis Burke Jr.
Charles F. Burlingame III.
Thomas E. Brockney Jr.
FDNY Assistant Chief Donald J. Burns.
Kenny Ann Burns.
Keith James Burns.
John Patrick Burnside.
Irina Busolo.
Milton J. Bastillo.
Firefighter Thomas M. Butler.
Patrick Dennis Byrne.
Timothy G. Byrne.
Daniel M. Caballero.
Jesus Neptali Cabezas.
Lillian Caceres.
Brian Joseph Caccia.
Stephen Dennis Cafiero Jr.
And my brother, firefighter Joseph Patrick Henry, ladder 21. Joey, we love you. Just knowing you're up there protecting and watching over us gives our family strength every day. This past week, we lost a friend and FDNY brother, Jimmy Dunn. And it's comforting knowing that when Jimmy went home, Joey was there to greet him, and Jimmy Coyle and all the FDNY brothers were there to greet him. We miss you so much. You'll never be forgotten.
And my brother Alexander Jiang Huai. He loved the Lord. He loved the church. He deeply loved his family. He always lived in us. And his beautiful spirit always enrich us.
Richard Michael Caggiano.
Cecile Morella Caguglia.
John Brett Cahill.
Michael John Cahill.
Scott Walter Cahill.
Thomas Joseph Cahill.
George C. Kane.
Salvatore B. Calabro.
Joseph M. Calandro.
Philip V. Calgagno.
Edward Calderon.
Jose O. Calderon Olmedo.
Kenneth Marcus Caldwell.
Dominic E. Kalia.
Felix Bobby Coiste.
Francis Joseph Callahan.
William Callahan.
Suzanne M. Cali.
Gino Luigi Calvi.
Rocco Camage.
Michael F. Camerata.
David Ote Campbell.
Jeffrey Thomas Campbell.
Robert Arthur Campbell.
Sandra Patricia Campbell.
Sean Thomas Canavan.
John A. Candela.
Vincent A. Canglosi.
Stephen J. Cangialosi.
Lisa Bella Canova.
Brian Canisaro.
Michael R. Canty.
Louis Anthony Caparici.
Jonathan Neff Capello.
James Christopher Cappers.
James Christopher, Richard Michael Caproni,
Jose Manuel Cardona.
Dennis M. Carey Sr.,
Edward Carlino.
Michael Scott Carlo,
And my father, Alfred Anton Vacosa. Dad, the whole family misses you. It's been 15 years. This year, I'm applying to college, and I know I'll make you proud.
and my uncle, firefighter Michael Boyle. I'll let you know how the Mets do this year. We miss you every day.
David G. Carlone.
Rosemarie C. Carlson.
Mark Stephen Carney.
Joyce Ann Carpenetto.
Jeremy Kaz Carrington.
Michael T. Carroll.
Peter J. Carroll.
James Joseph Carson Jr.
Christopher Michael Karstingen.
Angeline C. Carter.
James Marcel Cartier.
Sharon Ann Carver.
Vivian Castleduch.
John Francis Kazaza.
Paul Regan Cassio.
Neely Ann Heffernan Casey.
William Joseph Cashman.
Thomas Anthony Casoria.
William Otto Casper.
Alejandro Castaño.
Arcilia Castillo.
Leonard M. Castriano.
Jose Ramon Castro.
William E. Caswell.
Richard G. Catarelli.
Christopher Sean Caton.
Robert John Caulfield.
Mary Teresa Caulfield.
Judson Cavalier.
Michael Joseph Cawley.
Jason David Kane.
Juan Armando Ceballos.
Marcia G. Cecil Carter.
Jason Michael Cephalou.
Thomas Joseph Selleck.
Anna Mercedes Centeno.
Joni Sesta.
John J. Chada.
Jeffrey Mark Chernoff.
Swarna Chalasani.
And my uncle, who we love and miss dearly, James V. DeBlaze. You will forever be in our hearts.
And my father, Stephen Lewis Roach. I love you, Dad. Miss you.
William A. Chalkoff.
Eli Shalot.
Charles Lawrence Chan.
Mandy Chang.
Rosa Maria Chapa.
Mark Lawrence Charette.
David M. Charlebow.
Gregorio Manuel Chavez.
Pedro Francisco Checo.
Douglas McMillan Cherry.
Stephen Patrick Cherry.
Vernon Paul Cherry.
Nestor Julio Savalier.
Swede Joseph Chevalier.
Alexander H. Chayang.
Dorothy J. Chicharo.
Luis Alfonso Chimbo.
Robert Chin.
Eddie Wing Wei Ching.
Nicholas Paul Chiafalo.
John G. Trapuro.
Peter A. Chiccirillo.
Catherine Ellen Charles.
Kiying He Casey Cho.
Abul K. Chowdhury.
Mohammed Salahuddin Chowdhury.
Kirsten Lael Christoph.
Pamela Chu.
Stephen Paul Chuknik.
Wei Ching Chung.
Christopher G. Fardini.
Alex F. Chacon.
Francis Ann Salente.
Elaine Silo.
Edna Cintron.
Nestor Andre Cintron III.
Robert D. Siri Sr.
Juan Pablo Cisneros.
Benjamin Keith Clark.
Eugene Clark.
And my uncle, Robert D. Maxon.
And my uncle, Stephen Frank Macy.
Gregory Allen Clark.
Manny Leroy Clark.
Sarah M. Clark.
Thomas R. Clark.
Christopher Robert Clark.
Donna Marie Clark.
Michael J. Clark.
Surya Rachel Emma Clark.
Kevin Francis Cleary.
James D. Clear.
Jeffrey W. Cloud.
Susan Marie Klein.
Stephen Coakley,
Jeffrey Allen Cole,
Patricia A. Cody,
Daniel Michael Coffey,
Jason Matthew Coffey,
Florence G. Cohen,
Kevin S. Cohen,
Anthony Joseph Coladonato,
Mark Joseph Coleo,
Stephen J. Caleo,
Christopher Michael Colasante,
Kevin Nathaniel Colbert,
Michelle P. Colbert,
Keith E. Coleman,
Scott Thomas Coleman,
Terrell Coleman,
Liam Joseph Colhoun,
Robert D. Colin,
Robert J. Call,
Jean Marie Collin,
John Michael Collins,
Michael L. Collins,
Thomas Joseph Collins,
Joseph Kent Collison,
Jeffrey Dwayne Coleman,
Patricia Malia Kolodner,
Linda M. Cologne,
Saul E. Cologne,
and my brother Joseph Francis Sacerdote. Many who knew my brother called him Joe Sass. My mother called him Joe Hart because he was her heart, and he became the heart of the family. And even though it's been 15 years, the pain and the loss have not diminished. And he has given us so much. He was a loving brother, father, husband, nephew, uncle, cousin, and friend. And we're just so happy we had so many good times with him. And we'll never forget his smile, his trademark smile that will light up the night sky.
and my brother Joseph Francis Holland, whom we miss today as much as we did 15 years ago. Life will never be the same without you. Until we meet again, I'll carry you in my heart.
Ronald Edward Calmer,
Jaime Concepcion,
Albert Conde,
Denise Conley,
Susan P. Conlon,
Margaret Mary Connor,
Cynthia Marie Lease Connolly,
John E. Connolly, Jr.,
James Lee Connor,
Jonathan M. Connors,
Kevin Patrick Connors,
Kevin F. Conroy,
Brenda E. Conway,
Dennis Michael Cook,
Helen D. Cook,
Jeffrey W. Coombs,
John A. Cooper,
Julian T. Cooper,
Joseph John Capo Jr.,
Gerard J. Coppola,
Joseph Albert Corbett,
John J. Corcoran III,
Alejandro Cordero,
Robert Joseph Cordice,
Ruben D. Correa,
Danny A. Correa Gutierrez,
Georgine Rose Corrigan,
James J. Corrigan,
Carlos Cortez Rodriguez,
Kevin Michael Cosgrove,
Dolores Marie Costa,
Digna Alexandra Costanza,
Charles Gregory Costello Jr.,
Michael S. Costello,
Asia S. Cottom,
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, President Barack Obama, Secretary Ash Carter, Mrs. Stephanie Carter, General Joe Dunford, and Mrs. Ellen Dunford will pay tribute to the lives lost at the Pentagon and on American Airlines Flight 77 on September 11, 2001, by placing a wreath at the zero-age line of the Pentagon Memorial. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the flag on the Pentagon building. The flag hangs today from sunrise to sunset in honor of Patriot Day and in remembrance of the 184 lives lost at the Pentagon. Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Navy Chief of Chaplains, Rear Admiral Margaret Gibbon.
Would you pray with me? Almighty and eternal God, we pause this day in this hallowed space and at monuments and memorials around the country to remember husbands, wives, mothers, fathers, children, brothers, sisters, friends, to remember the warmth of their smiles, the touch of their hands, their last words, the gifts of their lives. Now help us never forget that it has been your grace which has allowed us the time we were able to share, which has enabled us to hold on to the fondest of memories, and provides us moments like this to cherish forever. God, we pause this day to remember those who first responded, the unsung heroes, civilian and military, emergency services, law enforcement, who fought valiantly that day to preserve the countless lives trapped within these walls, and those who over the last 15 years across the globe sacrificed their lives, defending the freedom our enemies sought and still seek to destroy. Help us then never to forget the examples of courage and fortitude these men and women demonstrated in the face of danger and hardship, nor to forget the ideals which have defined our nation, which they died to defend, and which are now the responsibility of every American citizen to uphold. And now, as we remember, we ask you not to forget us. Allow your will to transform our memorial into a lasting commitment to those whom we have lost, to the nation that you have preserved, and to a future defined by the values we hold dear. It is in the strength of your name we pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, 15 years ago, at 9:37 a.m., the Pentagon was attacked. Please join us in observing a moment of silence to remember those who perished. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Joe Dunford.
Mr. President, Secretary and Mrs. Carter, distinguished guests, and most importantly to the family and friends of those we lost on September 2001, and to those gathered here who survived the attack on the Pentagon, good morning. It's been said that the manner in which a nation or a community cares for its fallen reflects the people's respect for their land and their loyalty to high ideals. We're here today in that spirit to honor those who lost their lives on 9/11, to maintain our commitment to never forget, and to demonstrate our loyalty to high ideals. Whether they were ordinary citizens going about their daily lives or those in uniform serving to protect our values and way of life, those we lost 15 years ago today were killed for what they believed, what they represented. Over the years, I've heard the attacks of 9/11 described by some as senseless acts. And perhaps it does seem senseless to those who have endured the loss of a spouse, father, mother, brother, sister, or friend. But to the individuals who conducted these acts, the loss of life was not senseless. The terrorists who struck on 9/11 did so with a sense of purpose. They did so in a direct attack on our way of life and on our values. So as we recall the events that took place here 15 years ago, those still serving should ask for God's blessing on those who died, those who continue suffering from injuries, and those who were left behind. But we should also recall who we are, what we do, and why we serve. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, and civil servants serve because of our belief in America. We serve because of our belief in high ideals, and we serve to protect our families, friends, and fellow citizens. If today and in the years ahead, recalling the memories of 9/11 leaves us with a renewed sense of commitment to our values, if today's gathering reminds us of how important it remains to defend those values, then those who were taken from us prematurely will be able to look down and know that their lives had meaning. And they'll be able to take pride in how we are carrying on their legacy. It's now my privilege to introduce someone who has spent his life in service, our Secretary of Defense, the Honorable Ashton Carter.
Today, we return to the site of an attack motivated by barbarism and hate. An attack that rattled the world, that shook this mighty building, and that took 184 lives from us here at the Pentagon, as well as thousands in New York and Pennsylvania. Mr. President, Chairman Dunford, honored guests, family and friends of those we lost on 9/11. Today we come together as we have every year since 2001. We come together to remember those we lost that day and to stand again with their friends and families, to honor those we'll never forget. We come together to reflect on all we've done together to recover and rebuild, to respond and to retaliate. And we come together to recommit to our hard but certain mission, to protect our country and our people, and to make a better world for our children. To all those here before us who lost loved ones 15 years ago, our hearts and deepest sorrows are with you. We know that we can never fully know what you feel on this solemn day as you return to this place. But we do know, we fully know, what your loved one's sacrifice means to our department and to our country, and what your resolve means to all of us as we come to work each day to continue the mission your fallen loved ones summon us to. As we do, your example makes us stronger, and for that, we're grateful. We need that strength, and we have that resolve as we continue to confront and defeat those who conspired to attack us then and all who aspire to do so today. Indeed, when someone strikes at the heart of what we stand for, we respond with the full might of the finest fighting force the world has ever known. Because our memory is long and our reach and resolve are endless, our enemies cannot hide, they cannot escape, they cannot endure. Wherever they are, they will surely no matter how long it takes, come to feel the righteous fist of American might. Since September 11th, 2001, millions of America's best young men and women have volunteered to respond to those attacks and to defend what's best about America and civilization itself, our freedoms, our values, our care for life, our way of life. It's because of those Americans, their service and their sacrifice, that the United States has hammered those who attacked us with every manner and measure of American power, choking terrorist networks, thwarting looming attacks, and bringing Osama bin Laden to justice eternal. It's because of those Americans that 15 years later, as the threat of terrorism evolves, our fight continues. Whether they still call themselves Al-Qaeda or cloak themselves beneath the black flag of ISIL, nothing changes who terrorists are or what we'll do to protect our country. For we possess limitless resolve to win and the wind of goodness at our backs. And it's because of those Americans that even as we confront the forces of darkness, the United States has continued to light the way towards a better future. Whether in world wars or in the long battle against terrorists, our men and women in uniform, steadfast ever, have provided the security and upheld the values that have allowed millions upon millions of people, not just in the United States, but around the world, to be safe, to raise their children, to dream their dreams, to live lives that are full. And as a result, decades from now, when visitors to this memorial pause to remember the lives lost here on September 11th, 2001, they too will honor the men and women of the 9/11 generation and give thanks for all they accomplished. They will forever be the true reflection of who we are as a nation and a military, a powerful memorial to those we lost 15 years ago, and a charge to us at a time of great change and challenge that we must continue to meet. Few have been more dedicated to doing so than our Commander-in-Chief. President Obama has taken each year now of his presidency the time to remember 9/11. Whether here, in New York, or elsewhere, he's never missed a year, not one. He's also never forgotten that day or those we lost. I can tell you that no one pays more care each and every time he sends men and women forth from this building into harm's way. And I can tell you he never relaxes in pursuit of those who threaten America. Ladies and gentlemen, for those and many other reasons, it's my great privilege to introduce the President of the United States, Barack Obama.
Love you back. Good morning. Scripture tells us, let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Secretary Carter, Chairman Dunford, outstanding members of our armed forces, and most of all, survivors of that September day and the families of those we lost. It is a great honor once again to be with you on this day, a day that I know is still difficult, but which reveals the love and faithfulness in your hearts and in the heart of our nation. We remember, and we will never forget, the nearly 3,000 beautiful lives taken from us so cruelly, including 184 men, women, and children here, the youngest just 3 years old. We honor the courage of those who put themselves in harm's way to save people they never knew. We come together in prayer and in gratitude for the strength that has fortified us across these 15 years. and we renew the love and the faith that binds us together as one American family. 15 years may seem like a long time, but for the families who lost a piece of their heart that day, I imagine it can seem like just yesterday. Perhaps it's the memory of a last kiss given to a spouse, or the last goodbye to a mother or father, a sister or brother. We wonder how their lives might have unfolded, how their dreams might have taken shape. And I am mindful that no words we offer or deeds we do can ever truly erase the pain of their absence. And yet you, the survivors and families of 9/11, your steadfast love and faithfulness has been an inspiration to me and to our entire country. Even as you've mourned, you've summoned the strength to carry on. In the names of those you've lost, you've started scholarships and volunteered in your communities and done your best to be a good neighbor and a good friend and a good citizen. And in your grief and grace, you have reminded us that together, there's nothing we Americans cannot overcome. The question before us, as always, is how do we preserve the legacy of those we lost? How do we live up to their example? And how do we keep their spirit alive in our own hearts? Well, we have seen the answer in a generation of Americans, our men and women in uniform, diplomats, intelligence, Homeland Security, and law enforcement professionals, all who have stepped forward to serve and who have risked and given their lives to keep us safe. Thanks to their extraordinary service, we've dealt devastating blows to al-Qaeda. We've delivered justice to Osama bin Laden. We've strengthened our Homeland Security. We've prevented attacks. We've saved lives. We resolve to continue doing everything in our power to protect this country that we love. And today we once again pay tribute to these patriots, both military and civilian, who serve in our name, including those far away from home in Afghanistan and Iraq. Perhaps most of all, we stay true to the spirit of this day by defending not only our country, but also our ideals. 15 years into this fight, the threat has evolved. With our stronger defenses, terrorists often attempt attacks on a smaller but still deadly scale. Hateful ideologies urge people in their own country to commit unspeakable violence. We've mourned the loss of innocents from Boston to San Bernardino to Orlando. Groups like al-Qaeda, like ISIL, know that they will never be able to defeat a nation as great and as strong as America. So instead they try to terrorize in the hopes that they can stoke enough fear that we turn on each other, and that we change who we are or how we live. And that's why it is so important today that we reaffirm our character as a nation. People drawn from every corner of the world, every color, every religion, every background, bound by a creed as old as our founding, e pluribus unum. Out of many, we are one. For we know that our diversity, our patchwork heritage, is not a weakness. It is still and always will be one of our greatest strengths. This is the America that was attacked that September morning. This is the America that we must remain true to. Across our country today, Americans are coming together in service and remembrance. we run our fingers over the names and memorial benches here at the Pentagon. We walk the hallowed grounds of a Pennsylvania field. We look up at a gleaming tower that pierces the New York City skyline. But in the end, the most enduring memorial to those we lost is ensuring the America that we continue to be, that we stay true to ourselves, that we stay true to what's best in us, that we do not let others divide us. As I mark this solemn day with you for the last time as president, I think of Americans whose stories I've been humbled to know these past 8 years. Americans who I believe embody the true spirit of 9/11. It's the courage of Wells Crowther, just 24 years old, in the South Tower, the man in the red bandana who spent his final moments helping strangers to safety before the towers fell. It's the resilience of the firehouse on 8th Avenue, patriots who lost more than a dozen men, but who still suit up every day as the pride of Midtown. It's the love of a daughter, Peyton Wall of New Jersey, whose father, in his last moments on the phone from the towers, told her, "I will always be watching over you." It's the resolve of those Navy SEALs who made sure justice was finally done, who served as we must live as a nation, getting each other's backs, looking out for each other, united, one mission, one team. It's the ultimate sacrifice of men and women who rest for eternity not far from here in gentle green hills in perfect formation. Americans who gave their lives in faraway places so that we can be here today, strong and free and proud. It's all of us, every American who gets up each day, lives our lives, carries on. Because as Americans, we do not give in to fear. We will preserve our freedoms and the way of life that makes us a beacon to the world. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Write them on the tablet of your heart. In how we conduct ourselves as individuals and as a nation, we have the opportunity each and every day to live up to the sacrifice of those heroes that we lost. May God bless the memory of the loved ones here and across the country. They remain in our hearts today. May He watch over these faithful families and all who protect us. And may God forever bless the United States of America.
We miss you every day. And everyone, tell someone you love them today.
On behalf of our entire family, I'm honored to stand here and say, my brother, Thomas Francis Swift. Thomas, we love you and we miss you with all our hearts.
Timothy Paul Gilbert,
Paul Stewart Gilby,
Paul John Gill,
Mark Y. Giles,
Evan Hunter Gillette,
Ronald Lawrence Gilligan,
Rodney C. Gillis,
Laura Gilly,
John F. Ginley,
Donna Marie Giordano,
Jeffrey John Giordano,
John Giordano,
Stephen A. Giorgetti,
Martin Giovanazzo,
Cum Girolamo,
Salvatore Gito,
Cynthia Giugliano,
Mon Jambalage,
Diane Gladstone,
Keith Alexander Glasgow,
Thomas Irwin Glasser,
Edmund Glasser,
Harry Glenn,
Barry H. Glick,
Jeremy Logan Glick,
Stephen Glick,
John T. Nazzo,
William Robert Gottschalk,
Michael Gurriamella,
Brian F. Goldberg,
Jeffrey G. Goldflam,
Michelle Goldstein,
Monica Goldstein,
Stephen Ian Goldstein,
Ronald F. Galinsky,
Andrew H. Golkin,
Dennis James Gomes,
Enrique Antonio Gomez,
Jose Bienvenido Gomez,
Manuel Gomez Jr.,
and my Aunt Sharon Christina Milan. Not a day goes by that we don't think about you. We love and miss you so much.
and my uncle Robert Frank Topaldi.
Wilder Alfredo Gomez,
Janine Nicole Gonzalez,
Mauricio Gonzalez,
Rosa J. Gonzalez,
Lynn Catherine Goodchild,
Calvin Joseph Gooding,
Peter Morgan Goodrich,
Harry Goody,
Kiran Kumar Reddy Gopu,
Catherine C. Goriad,
Lisa Fenn Gordenstein,
Corrine Gordon,
Sebastian Gorky,
Kieran Joseph Gorman,
Thomas Edward Gorman,
Michael Edward Gould,
O. Christian Alsterholm White Gould,
Douglas Allen Gowell,
Yuji Goya,
John Richard Grabowski,
Christopher Michael Grady,
Edwin J. Graff III,
David Martin Grafman,
Gilbert Franco Granados,
Lauren Catuzzo Grancolos and her unborn child,
Elvira Granito,
Winston Arthur Grant,
Christopher S. Gray,
Ian J. Gray,
James Michael Gray,
Tara McDonald Gray,
John M. Grazioso,
Timothy George Gracioso,
Derek Arthur Green,
Wade B. Green,
Wanda Anita Green,
Elaine Myra Greenberg,
Donald Freeman Green,
Gail R. Green,
James Arthur Greenleaf Jr.,
and my beloved brother-in-law, Sean Paul Rooney. You are with your mother, Rosemary, and my sister, Beverly Eckert. Our families miss you every day. We love you, and we will never forget you. May God lead us into a path of peace.
Ron, my brother, I love you and miss you so much. I live my life in your spirit of giving and never forgetting. Love you always, Ronald J. Rubin.
Eileen Marcia Greenstein,
Elizabeth Martin Gregg,
Denise Marie Gregory,
Donald H. Gregory,
Florence Moran Gregory,
Pedro Greyhan,
John Michael Griffin.
Tawana Sherry Griffin.
Joan Donna Griffith.
Warren Grifka.
Ramon B. Grijalvo.
Joseph F. Grillo.
David Joseph Grimner.
Francis Edward Grogan.
Linda Gronlund.
Kenneth George Gruzales.
Joseph Grzelek.
Matthew James Grishmalski.
Robert Joseph Grishar.
Liming Gu.
Richard G. Guadagno.
Jose A. Guadalupe.
Cindy Yan Zhu Guan.
Jeffrey E. Guja.
Joseph P. Gullickson.
Babita Gurjamati Guman.
Douglas Brian Gurian.
Janet Ruth Gustafson.
Philip T. Guza.
Barbara Guzardo.
Peter Mark Gualivari.
Gary Robert Haig.
Andrea Lynn Haberman.
Barbara Mary Habib.
Philip Hansler.
Nizam A. Hafiz.
Karen Elizabeth Haggerty.
Stephen Michael Haggis.
Mary Lou Haig.
David Halderman.
In memory of my aunt, Susan Hoy.
And my beautiful, zany, generous, forgiving, encouraging, hardworking, friendly, unconditionally loving mother, Ruth Sheila Lapin. She made this world a brighter place in the 53 years that she lived, and she lives on in the hearts and memories of those whose lives she touched. She never got to meet my children, but she inspired the prayer that I say with her grandchildren before bed at night. Let us pray for our families and friends, those we have lost but not forgotten, for the sad, the sick, and the lonely, for our leaders to make wise choices, for us to choose wise leaders, for us to help each other and not hurt each other, and for peace. Amen.
Miley Raquel Hale.
Diane Hale McKenzie.
Richard B. Hall.
Stanley R. Hall.
Boswald George Hall.
Robert J. Halligan.
Vincent Gerard Halloran.
Carolyn B. Howman.
James Douglas Halvorsen.
Mohammed Salman Hamdani.
Felicia Hamilton.
Robert W. Hamilton.
Carl Max Hammond Jr.
Frederick K. Hahn.
Christopher James Hanley.
Sean S. Hanley.
Valerie Joan Hanna.
Thomas Paul Hannafin.
Kevin James Hannaford Sr.
Michael Lawrence Hannon.
Dana Ray Hannon.
Christine Lee Hansen.
Peter Burton Hansen.
Sue Kim Hansen.
Vasilios G. Harames.
James A. Harron.
Gerald Francis Hardacre.
Jeffrey Pike Hardy.
T.J. Hargrave.
Daniel Edward Harlan.
Francis Harrows.
Harvey L. Harrell.
Stephen G. Harrell.
Melissa Harrington Hughes.
Aisha Ann Harris.
Stuart D. Harris.
John Patrick Hart.
Eric Hartono.
John Clinton Hartz.
Emmerich Harvey.
And my uncle Norman Scott Rossenow. I'm 15 years and 3 months old. Though I only knew you for 3 months, I feel like I've known you forever. I love hearing about you from stories from my family. I'm sorry I never got to see you smile, laugh, and taste your chocolate chip cookies with nuts. I'm proud to call you my uncle, and we will love you forever.
And my uncle, firefighter Patrick Dennis Byrne. We love and miss you every day. You will always be our ultimate man.
Peter Paul Hashim,
Thomas Theodore Haskell, Jr.,
Timothy Sean Haskell,
Joseph John Hassan III,
Leonard W. Hatton Jr.,
Terrence S. Hatton,
Michael Helmut Haub,
Timothy Aaron Haviland,
Donald G. Havlish Jr.,
Anthony Maurice Hawkins,
Nobuhiro Hayatsu,
James Edward Hayden,
Robert J. Hayes,
Philip T. Hayes, retired,
W. Ward Haynes,
Scott Jordan Hazelcorn,
Michael K. Healy,
Roberta B. Heber,
Charles Francis Xavier Heron,
John F. Heffernan,
Michelle M. Heidenberger,
Sheila M.S. Hine,
H. Joseph Heller Jr.,
Joan L. Heltebridal,
Ronald John Hemingway,
Mark F. Hemscott,
Ronnie Lee Henderson,
Brian Hennessy,
Edward R. Hennessy Jr.,
Michelle Marie Enrique,
Joseph Patrick Henry,
William L. Henry Jr.,
Katharina Henry Robinson,
John Christopher Henwood,
Robert Allen Hepburn,
Mary Herencia,
Lindsay C. Harkness III,
Harvey Robert Hermer,
Norberto Hernandez.
Raul Hernandez,
And on behalf of our family, firefighter Salvatore Benedetto Calabro, today for the 15th time, we mourn the loss of you. We stand united to commemorate the bravery that was displayed on one of the worst days in American history. We love and miss you dearly, and your memory will live on inside of our hearts always. Today we honor and remember all who've fallen, and pray for the end of violence and terrorism. May God bless America.
and my Nana, Barbara A. Shaw, who was killed when I was just 2 years old and never got to meet my younger brother. I plan on honoring her by serving our country, just like my mom honors her through her cooking. We love you, and we miss you.
Gary Harold,
Jeffrey Allen Hirsch,
Thomas J. Hetzel,
Leon Bernard Hayward MC Sundance,
Brian Christopher Hickey,
Enemencio Dario Hidalgo Cedeno,
Timothy Brian Higgins,
Robert D.W. Higley II,
Todd Russell Hill,
Clara Victorine Hines,
Neil O. Hines,
Mark Hindi,
Katsuyuki Hirai,
Heather Malia Ho,
Tara Yvette Hobbs,
Thomas Anderson Hobbs,
James J. Hoban,
Robert Wayne Hobson III,
Dewan Hodges,
Ronald G. Horner,
Patrick A. Hoey,
John A. Hoffer,
Marsha Hoffman,
Stephen Gerard Hoffman,
Frederick Joseph Hoffman,
Michelle L. Hoffman,
Judith Florence Hoffmiller,
Wallace Cole Hogan Jr.,
Thomas Warren Holwick Jr.,
Jonathan R. Homan,
Cora Hidalgo Holland,
John Holland,
Joseph F. Holland,
Jimmy I. Holly,
Elizabeth Holmes,
Thomas P. Holohan,
Herbert Wilson Homer,
Leroy W. Homer Jr.,
Bradley V. Horn,
James P. Hopper,
and my father, Alan Bondarenko. Dad, we're so proud of you. We love you, we miss you, and we miss your love.
and my uncle and godfather, Paul Edward Jeffers. We love you and we miss you every single day.
Montgomery McCullough Horde,
Michael Joseph Horn,
Matthew Douglas Horning,
Robert L. Horarjo, Jr.,
Michael Robert Horrocks,
Aaron Horwitz,
Charles J. Houston,
Uhuru G. Houston,
Angela M. Houts,
George Gerard Howard,
Brady K. Howell,
Michael C. Howell,
Stephen Leon Howell,
Jennifer L. Howley,
Milagros Horomada,
Marion R. Hrichek,
Stephen Husko Jr.,
Chris Robert Hughes,
Paul Rexford Hughes,
Robert T. Hughes, Jr.,
Thomas F. Hughes Jr.,
Timothy Robert Hughes,
Susan Huey,
Lamar Demetrius Hulse,
John Nicholas Humber Jr.,
William Christopher Hunt,
Kathleen Ann Hunt Casey,
Joseph Gerard Hunter,
Peggy M. Hurt,
Robert R. Husa,
Thomas Edward Hines,
Robert J. Himmel,
Joseph Anthony Ionelli,
Walter G. Hines,
Thomas Edward Hines,
Zutu Ibis,
Jonathan Lee Ilepi,
Michael Patrick Eichen,
Daniel Alkaniev,
Frederick J. Ill, Jr.,
and my father, John Patrick Gallagher. Dad, me and Mom think about you every single day, but we'll never stop loving you and missing you.
and my dad, John Joseph Murray. You continue to inspire me. We love and miss you more every single day. And to our family at Camp Better Days, thank you for everything.
Abraham Nathaniel Ilowitz,
Anthony P. Infante Jr.,
Louis S. Inglaterra,
Christopher Noble Ingracia,
Paul Inella,
Stephanie Veronica Irby,
Douglas Jason Irging,
Kristen Irvine Ryan,
Todd Antione Isaac,
Eric Hans Isbronson,
Taizo Ishikawa,
Walid Joseph Iskander,
Aram Iskandarian Jr.,
John F. Iskian,
Kazujike Ito,
Alexander Valerievich Ivansov,
Lacey Bernard Ivory,
Virginia May Yablonsky,
Brian C. Jack,
Brooke Alexandra Jackman,
Aaron Jeremy Jacobs,
Ariel Lewis Jacobs,
Jason Kyle Jacobs,
Michael G. Jacobs,
Stephen A. Jacobson,
Stephen D. Jacoby,
Ricknoth Jagernoth,
Jake Dennis Yagoda,
Yudvir S. Jane,
Mary Yakubiak,
Robert Adrian Jalbert,
Ernest James,
Griselda E. James,
Mark Stephen Jardine,
Amy Nicole Jarrett,
Mohamedou Jawara,
Francois Jean-Pierre,
Maxima Jean-Pierre,
Paul Edward Jeffers,
John Charles Jenkins,
and my uncle, Donald Walter Robertson Jr. We love and miss you so much. Your memory is kept alive, not just today, but every single day. Thank you for being our inspiration. Until we meet again.
and my uncle, firefighter Peter Alexander Bielfeld. 15 years ago, you were getting checked out by doctors in Brooklyn for injuries you sustained in a fire earlier. Without hesitation, you came to Manhattan, borrowed some gear from a fellow firefighter in Ladder 10, and climbed the towers to try to save lives. Your strength, dedication, and courage are examples that will live on in us forever. We miss you. We love you.
Joseph Jenkins Jr.,
Alan Keith Jensen,
Prem Nath Giraffe,
Farah Judy,
Huedar Jin,
Eliza Jimenez Jr.,
Luis Jimenez Jr.,
Charles Gregory John,
Nicholas John,
Dennis M. Johnson,
Lishwana Johnson,
Scott Michael Johnson,
William R. Johnston,
Allison Horstman Jones,
Arthur Joseph Jones III,
Brian Leander Jones,
Charles Edward Jones,
Christopher D. Jones,
Donald T. Jones II,
Donald W. Jones,
Judith Lauter Jones,
Linda Jones,
Mary S. Jones,
Andrew Brian Jordan Sr.,
Robert Thomas Jordan,
Albert Gunnis Joseph,
Ingeborg Joseph,
Carl Henry Joseph,
Stephen Joseph,
Jane Eileen Josiah,
Anthony Jovic,
Angel L. Warbe Jr.,
Karen Sue Jade,
Ann C. Judge,
Michael F. Judge,
Paul William Jurgens,
Thomas Edward Jurgens,
Shashikaran Lakshimakanta Kadaba,
Gavkaroy Kamardinova,
Shari Kandel,
and my brother Daniel W. Song. Let us be reminded that those who have attacked us have been defeated not only by their own hatred and by the brave men and women who have served our country, but also by the enduring love that shines down on us from those we will remember today.
and for my brother, Christopher Michael Duffy. Chris, whenever you wore a ridiculous shirt such as the one I'm sporting, we didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. Today we will do both. Your memory and spirit live on through your family, your friends, your 4 siblings, your 3 nephews, and your 2 nieces, especially our 2 sons, Jack Christopher and Matthew, who play, who fight, and who wrestle just like you and I did. No one should ever have to say goodbye to a younger brother, especially at 23. I'm sorry I never got to say goodbye, bro.
Howard Lee Kane,
Jennifer Lynn Kane,
Vincent D. Kane,
Jun Ku Kang,
Sheldon Robert Cantor,
Deborah H. Kaplan,
Robin Lynn Kaplan,
Alvin Peter Kappelman Jr.,
Charles H. Karcheski,
William A. Carnes,
Douglas Jean Karpoloff,
Charles L. Casper,
Years ago, at this exact moment, the North Tower collapsed, and my world collapsed with it. My brother Jimmy Quinn was killed in the North Tower. He worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. He was only 23 years old. Jimmy loved me. He loved us. He loved my family. He loved New York City. He loved his beloved New York Mets. He loved this country. He loved life. Personally, I wanted to do something about that. I wanted to serve my country. So I joined the Army. I served 2 tours in Iraq and 1 tour in Afghanistan. Today, I dedicate my life to serving military veterans through an organization called Team Red, White, and Blue. Looking back, it was hard to get through those weeks following 9/11. But an important part of me misses those days because as a country, we were never more united. We were never more inspired. I know in our current political environment, it may feel that we're divided. Don't believe it. On this anniversary of September 11th, for one day, just one day, shut off your television, power down your phone, and go outside. Say hello to your neighbor. Volunteer. Engage with your community. Do not sit on the sidelines. Be the inspiration we so desperately crave. Be the connection we all desperately need. And then tomorrow, by dawn's early light, wake up, put one foot in front of the other, and do it again. Be the unity this world needs. Thank you.
Andrew K. Cates.
John A. Katzmatides.
Robert Michael Colfers.
Don Jerome Kauf Jr.
Hidea Kawauchi.
Edward T. Keene.
Richard M. Keene.
Lisa Yvonne Carney Griffin.
Carol Ann Kiesler.
Barbara A. Keating.
Paul Hanlon Keating.
Leo Russell Keene III.
Brenda Kegler.
Chandler Raymond Keller.
Joseph John Keller.
Peter R. Kellerman.
Joseph P. Collette.
Frederick H. Kelly III.
James Joseph Kelly.
Joseph A. Kelly.
Maurice P. Kelly.
Richard John Kelly Jr.
Thomas Michael Kelly.
Thomas Richard Kelly.
Thomas W. Kelly.
Timothy Colin Kelly.
William Hill Kelly Jr.
Robert Clinton Kennedy.
And my uncle, Peter Tague Milano. We keep your memory and spirit alive with stories of you. We love and miss you every day.
And my father, police officer Paul Talty. We love and miss you always.
Thomas J. Kennedy.
Yvonne E. Kennedy.
John Richard Keohane.
Ralph Francis Kershaw.
Ronald T. Kerwin.
Howard L. Kestenbaum.
Douglas D. Ketchum.
Ruth Ellen Kettler.
Boris Califf.
Norma Cruz Khan.
Sarah Khan.
Taimur Faraz Khan.
Rajesh Handawal.
Saleh Ku.
Michael Vernon Kiefer.
Satoshi Kikuchihara,
Andrew Jaehoon Kim,
Lawrence Don Kim,
Mary Jo Kimmelman,
Heinrich Kimmig,
Karen Kincaid,
Amy R. King,
Andrew M. King,
Lucille Teresa King,
Robert King, Jr.,
Lisa King Johnson,
Brian K. Kinney,
Takeshi Kinoshita,
Chris Michael Kirby,
Robert Kirkpatrick,
Howard Barry Kirschbaum,
Glenn Davis Kerwin,
Helen Crossan Kittle,
Richard Joseph Claris,
Peter Anton Klein,
Alan David Kleinberg,
Karen Joyce Klitzman,
Ronald Philip Klepfer,
Stephen A. Knapp,
Eugenie Niazev,
and my uncle, Andrew Fisher. I have been to this ceremony every year of my life, and though I have never met my uncle, it doesn't really feel that way. His memory and his life are still alive for the people who love him, including myself. I have grown up with him right by my side. Andrew made such a huge impact on many people's lives, and I'm evidence that even after his death, he still has the same effect. Uncle Andrew, words cannot describe how much everyone loves you and misses you, and I look forward to for us finally meeting in heaven.
And my uncle and namesake, Brian Christopher Novotny.
Andrew James Knox,
Thomas Patrick Knox,
Rebecca Lee Kobari,
Deborah A. Kobus,
Gary Edward Keckler,
Frank J. Cosner,
Ryan Cohart,
Vanessa Lynn Shibalo Kopak,
Irina Kopakova,
Suzanne Rose Kontratenko,
Abdullah Konan,
Bon Siok Ku,
Dorota Kopitsko,
Scott Michael Kapiko,
Bohan George Kostich,
Danielle Kasulis,
David P. Kovalchin,
John J. Kren,
William Edward Krukowski,
Ludmila Casito,
Toshia Kuge,
Shakhar Kumar,
Kenneth Bruce Kumpel,
Frederick Koo Jr.,
Patricia A. Kuras,
Naka Kushatani,
Thomas Joseph Kuvakis,
Victor Kwarkai,
Raymond Kui Fei Kwok,
Angela Reed Kite,
Andrew Lacourte,
Carol Ann LaPlante,
Jeffrey G. Latouche,
Catherine L. Labori,
Amarnath Lachman,
Ganesh K. Ladkett,
James Patrick Ladley,
Joseph A. LaFouse,
Jeanette Louise LaFond Minicano,
David James LaForge,
and my nephew, Brooke David Rosenbaum. Your entire family loves and misses you very much. Your mother left us last week. I suspect by now you've found each other. You will remain in our hearts and our minds forever.
and my brother, Brian Thomas Cummins, a larger-than-life member of our family, his network of friends, and his profession. We miss you, and you were awesome.
Michael Patrick Lafort,
Alan Charles LaFrance,
Juan Mendez Lafuente,
Neil Kwong Hua Lei,
Vincent Anthony Lieta,
William David Lake,
Franco Lalama,
Chow Kwan Lam,
Michael S. Lamana,
Stephen Lamontia,
Amy Hope Lamonsoff,
Robert T. Lane,
Brendan Mark Lang,
Roseanne P. Lang,
Vanessa Langer,
Mary Lou Langley,
Peter J. Langone,
Thomas Michael Langone,
Michelle Bernadette Lanza,
Ruth Sheila Lapin,
Ingeborg A.D. Larrabee,
Robin Blair Larkey,
Judith Camilla LaRoque,
Christopher Randall Larrabee,
Hamadou S. Larry,
Scott Larson,
John Adam Larson,
Natalie Janice Lasden,
Gary Edward Lasco,
Nicholas Craig Lassman,
Paul Lazinski,
Charles A. Lorenzen,
Stephen James Loria,
Maria Lavache,
Dennis Francis Lavelle,
Janine Mary Laverde,
Anna A. Laverty,
Stephen Lawn,
Robert A. Lawrence Jr.,
Nathaniel Lawson,
and my wife, Arlene Ava Freed. We will always remember your smile, and we love you forever.
and my beloved son, Joshua Todd Aaron. Josh, you are in my thoughts and heart always. I miss you every day, and I love you.
David W. Lachek,
Eugene Gabrielle Lazar,
James Patrick Leahy,
Joseph Gerard Levy,
Neil J. Levy,
Robert G. LeBlanc,
Leon Labor,
Kenneth Charles Lede,
Alan J. Liederman,
Elena F. Ledesma,
Alexis Leduc,
Daniel John Lee,
David S. Lee,
Dong Chu Lee,
Gary H. Lee,
Hayun Jun Lee,
Juanita Lee,
Catherine Blair Lee,
Linda C. Lee,
Lorraine Mary Green Lee,
Myung Woo Lee,
Richard Y. C. Lee,
Stuart Soon Jin Lee,
Yang Der Lee,
Stephen Paul Lefkowitz,
Adriana Legro,
Edward Joseph Lehman,
Eric Lerfeld,
David R. Leisman,
David Prudencio Lamagne,
Joseph Anthony Lenahan,
John Joseph Lennon Jr.,
John Robinson Lenoir,
Jorge Luis Leon Sr.,
Matthew G. Leonard,
Michael Lepore,
Charles A. Lesperance,
Jeff Levine,
John Dennis Levi,
Alicia Karen Levin,
and my uncle and godfather, Sergeant Timothy Allen Roy. I miss the family vacations to Lake George and the silly things you did to make me smile. I still think of you and feel like you give me signs that you are watching over me. Until we meet again, may God keep you in his palms. I love you.
and my uncle and Flight 93 passenger, William Joseph Cashman. Billy, you were the hero in our family long before September 11th, 2001. We love you.
Neil David Levin.
Robert Levine.
Robert Michael Levine.
Shai Levenhar.
Daniel M. Lewin.
Adam J. Lewis.
Jennifer Lewis.
Kenneth E. Lewis.
Margaret Susan Lewis.
Yi Wei Liang.
Orasri Liang Thanasarn.
Daniel F. Libretti,
Ralph Michael Licciardi,
Edward Lichtshine,
Samantha L. Lightburn Allen,
Stephen Barry Lilienthal,
Carlos R. Lilo,
Craig Damian Lelor,
Arnold Arboleda Lim,
Daria Lin,
Wei Rong Lin,
Nikki L. Lindo,
Thomas V. Linehan Jr.,
Robert Thomas Linnane,
Alan Patrick Linton Jr.,
Diane Teresa Lipari,
Kenneth P. Lira Arevelo,
Francisco Alberto Liriano,
Lorraine Lisi,
Paul Listen,
Vincent M. Lito,
Ming Hao Lu,
Nancy Liz,
Harold Lizcano,
Martin Lazul,
George A. Lanes,
Elizabeth C. Logler,
Catherine Lisa Laguidice,
Jérôme Robert Lohez,
Michael William Lomax,
and my father, Frank Joseph Doyle. In the past 15 years, hundreds of family friends have come to compete in your honor. Team Frank has participated in athletic events all around the world. Your spirit continues to guide us, and I hope I make you proud. I miss you, and I love you to the moon and back, Papa, until we meet again.
and Thomas Edward Hines, my husband and father of our 14-and-a-half-year-old daughter. We love you and miss you so much, Tom. You're forever in our hearts.
Stephen V. Long,
Laura Maria Longing,
Salvatore P. Lopez,
Daniel Lopez,
George Lopez,
Luis Manuel Lopez,
Maclovio Lopez Jr.,
Manuel L. Lopez,
Joseph Lostrangio,
Chet Deck Louis,
Stuart Side Lewis,
Joseph Lovero,
Sarah Elizabeth Lowe,
Jenny Sue Kong Lo Wong,
Michael W. Lowe,
Gary W. Loger,
John P. Lazowski,
Charles Peter Lucania,
Edward Hobbs Luckett II,
Mark Gavin Ludvigsen,
Lee Charles Ludwig,
Sean Thomas Lugano,
Daniel Lugo,
Marie Lucas,
William Lum Jr.,
Michael P. London,
Christopher E. Lunder,
Anthony Luparello,
Gary Frederick Lutnick,
Linda Ann Luzacone,
Alexander Ligon,
Cece Lyles,
Farrell Peter Lynch,
James Francis Lynch,
James T. Lynch Jr.,
Louise A. Lynch,
Michael Cameron Lynch,
Michael Francis Lynch,
Michael Francis Lynch,
Richard D. Lynch Jr.,
and my brother, Rescue 1 firefighter Kenneth Joseph Marino. Kenny, we humbly thank you for your heroism on the morning of September 11, 2001. You're an inspiration to us. We love you. We miss you every day.
and my father, Patrick Sean Murphy. Dad, I remember the days of you carrying me around on your shoulders, and now I'm here. You would be so proud of me and Sean. We live our lives like you did every day, with love, humor, and generosity. We love and miss you so much.
Robert Henry Lynch Jr.
Sean P. Lynch.
Sean Patrick Lynch.
Terrence M. Lynch.
Michael J. Lyons.
Monica N. Lyons.
Naheeman Lyons IV.
Patrick John Lyons.
Robert Francis Mace.
Marion McFarlane.
Jan Makiewski.
Susan A. Mackey.
William McCoe.
Catherine Fairfax McRae.
Richard Blaine Madden.
Simon Madison.
Noel C. Myers.
Jenian Maffeo.
Joseph Maffeo.
J. Robert Magazine.
Brian McGee.
Charles W. McGee.
Joseph V. Magatee.
Ronald Magnuson.
Daniel L. Mayer.
Thomas A. Mayon.
William J. Mahoney.
Joseph Daniel Mayo.
Linda C. Mayer Grayling.
Takashi Makimoto.
Abdu Ali Malahi.
Deborah I. Maldonado.
Myrna T. Maldonado Augusto.
Alfred Russell Maller.
Gregory James Malone.
Edward Francis Maloney III.
Joseph E. Maloney.
Jean Edward Malloy.
Christian H. Maltby.
Francesco Miguel Mancini.
And my husband, Brian Murphy. Thank you, New York, for continuing to honor the victims of 9/11 and for the privilege of reading their names. Brian, I have thought about you every day for the last 15 years. I am very grateful for our wonderful time together and will never forget all that we shared. Your spirit lives on in your beautiful daughters, your family, and your many friends. We love you.
And to my father, Joseph Amatuccio. Daddy, I never got a chance to see your face, hear your voice, or hold your hand. Life wasn't fair, and it took you away before I was able to meet you. But that doesn't stop me from loving you, and it never will. It's hard to move on, but you're the angel that keeps me strong. I love you and I forever will.
Joseph Mangano.
Sarah Elizabeth Manley.
Deborah M. Manetta.
Marion Victoria Manning.
Terrence John Manning.
James Maunis.
Alfred Guile Padre Joseph Martian.
Joseph Ross Marchbanks Jr.
Laura A. Marchese.
Hilda Marson.
Peter Edward Mardikian.
Edward Joseph Martovich.
Charles Joseph Maggiata.
Louis Neil Mariani.
Kenneth Joseph Marino.
Lester V. Marino.
Vita Marino.
Kevin D. Marlowe.
Jose Juan Marrero.
John Daniel Marshall.
Shelly A. Marshall.
James Martello.
Michael A. Marty.
Karen Ann Martin.
Peter C. Martin.
Teresa M. Martin.
William J. Martin Jr.,
Brian E. Martino,
Betsy Martinez,
Edward J. Martinez,
Jose Angel Martinez Jr.,
Robert Gabriel Martinez,
Waleska Martinez,
Lizzie D. Martinez Calderon,
Paul Richard Martini,
Anne Marie Martino Kramer,
Joseph A. Mascali,
Bernard Mascarenas,
Stephen Frank Macy,
Ada L. Masonacker,
and my husband, David S. Lee. David, your mom misses you terribly. You didn't get a chance to meet your nieces, Courtney, Alexis, and the nephew, Casey. You missed the birth of our son. His name is Ryan, and he is in many ways just like you. We miss you, we love you, and you will always live on in our hearts.
and my father, Jaish Shantilal Shah. I love you and miss you. Go Packers.
Nicholas George Massa,
Patricia Ann Cimaroli Masari,
Michael Mazzaroli,
Philip William Mastrandrea Jr.,
Rudy Mastrosinke,
Joseph Mathai,
Charles William Mathers,
William A. Matheson,
Marcelo Matriciano,
Margaret Elaine Mattick,
Dean E. Matson,
Robert D. Matson,
Walter A. Matuza Jr.,
Timothy J. Maud,
Charles J. Morrow,
Jill Morer Campbell,
Nancy T. Morrow,
Charles A. Morrow Jr.,
Renee A. May,
Dorothy Morrow,
Keithroy Marcellus Maynard,
Robert J. Maxwell,
Kathy N. Mazza,
Tyrone May,
Jennifer Lynn Mazzata,
Robert J. Mayo,
James Joseph McAllery Jr.,
Edward Mazzella Jr.,
Patricia Ann McEnany,
Karya Mumbaya,
John Kevin McAvoy,
Brian Gerard McAleese,
Brendan F. McCabe,
Colin R. MacArthur,
Thomas Joseph McCann,
Kenneth M. McBrayer,
Kevin M. McCarthy,
Michael McCabe, Justin McCarthy,
and my uncle, Peter Burton Hansen, my aunt, Sue Kim Hansen, and my cousin, Christine Lee Hansen. Thank you for watching over me and keeping me out of trouble for the past 15 years. I love you and miss you every day.
Michael Desmond McCarthy, and my brother, Richard Avery Arano. We miss you, Richard. We love you. We wish you were here.
Robert G. McCarthy,
Stanley McCaskill,
Katie Marie McCloskey,
Juliana Valentine McCourt,
Ruth Magdalene McCourt,
Charles Austin McCran,
Toniel F. McDay,
Matthew T. McDermott,
Joseph P. McDonald,
Brian Grady McDonnell,
Michael P. McDonnell,
John F. McDowell Jr.,
Eamon J. McEnany,
John Thomas McCarolyn Jr.,
Daniel Francis McGinley.
Mark Ryan McGinley.
Lieutenant William E. McGinn, FDNY, Squad 18.
Thomas Henry McGinnis.
Michael Gregory McGinty.
Ann Walsh McGovern.
Scott Martin McGovern.
William J. McGovern.
Stacy Senes McGowan.
Francis Noel McGuinn.
Thomas F. McGinnis, Jr.
Patrick J. McGuire.
Thomas M. McHale.
Keith David McKeffey.
Ann M. McHugh.
Dennis J. McHugh III.
Firefighter Dennis P. McHugh, FDNY, Ladder 13.
Michael Edward McHugh, Jr.
Robert G. McIlvain.
Donald James McIntyre.
Stephanie Marie McKenna.
Molly L. McKenzie.
Barry J. McKeon.
Evelyn C. McKennedy.
Darrell Laren McKinney.
George Patrick McLaughlin, Jr.
And my brother, FDNY firefighter Brian Edward Sweeney, Rescue Company Number 1, working in his old company of Squad 288. You have two wonderful nieces now, Finley and Ava, and they will both always know you as Uncle Brian.
And my dear cousin and beloved friend, nephew, uncle, brother, and son, Richard H. Stewart, Jr. Over the past 15 years, there isn't a day that goes by that we don't honor your memory. You were taken from us far too soon and too quick. We never had the opportunity to say thank you, so I'm taking that moment now. So with peace and love, thank you, Rich. You're deeply missed, and we love you very much.
Robert C. McLaughlin, Jr.
Gavin McMahon.
Robert D. McMahon.
Edmund A. McNally.
Daniel Walker McNeil.
Walter Arthur McNeil.
Christine Sheila McNulty.
Sean Peter McNulty.
Robert William McPadden.
Terrence A. McShane.
Timothy Patrick McSweeney.
Martin E. McWilliams.
Rocco A. McDaglia.
Abigail Medina.
Anna Iris Medina.
Damian Meehan.
William J. Meehan, Jr.
Alok Kumar Makita.
Raymond Meisenheimer.
Manuel Emilio Mejia.
Escadar Melaku.
Antonio Melendez.
Mary P. Melendez.
Christopher D. Mello.
Yelena Melichenko.
Stuart Todd Meltzer.
Diarelia Giovanna Mena.
Dora Marie Menchaca.
Charles R. Mendez.
Lizette Mendoza.
Siobhan Alicia Mentes.
Wolfgang Peter Menzel.
Steve John Mercado.
Wilfredo Mercado.
Wesley Mercer.
Ralph Joseph Mercurio.
Alan Harvey Merdinger.
George L. Marino.
Yamel Josefina Marino.
George Mercuris.
And my stepfather, Luis Clodoaldo Revilla Mier. I miss you and love you, and your family loves you and misses you. De parte de mi madre, María Nancy Revilla, te extraña, te quiere mucho, te manda besos. Por favor, siempre
guíala y no le asustes.
And my sister, Lorraine Green Lee. We still miss you every day, but you live on through the beautiful memories that we were lucky to make with you. Mommy's heart still aches for you and Timmy. We love you so much. And for my cousin, firefighter Nicholas Chiafalo, who we miss and love so much. Nick, you would be so proud of your beautiful new granddaughter, Annabelle.
Deborah Merrick.
Raymond Joseph Metz III.
Jill Ann Metzler.
David Robert Meyer.
Narelle H. Maya.
William Edward Michiuli.
Martin Paul Mickelstein.
Patricia E. Mickley.
Ronald D. Malam.
Peter Teague Milano.
Gregory Milanowitz.
Lukasz Tomasz Molesky.
Sharon Christina Milan.
Corey Peter Miller.
Greg J. Miller.
Douglas C. Miller.
Henry Alfred Miller, Jr.
Joel Miller.
Michael Matthew Miller.
Nicole Carol Miller.
Philip G. Miller.
Robert Allen Miller.
Robert Cromwell Miller, Jr.
Benny Millman.
Charles M. Mills, Jr.
Ronald Keith Milstein.
Robert J. Manara.
William George Minardi.
Louis Joseph Minervino.
Thomas Mingione.
Wilbert Morale.
Dominic N. Merkovich.
Rajesh Arjan Mapuri.
Joseph D. Mistruli.
Susan J. Miskowicz.
Paul Thomas Mitchell.
Richard P. Machio.
Jeffrey Peter Mladnick.
Frank V. Machia, Sr.
Louis Joseph Modafferi.
And our brother John Thomas Resta. And our sister-in-law Sylvia Sampio Resta. And their unborn child.
John and Sylvia, it's been 15 years since we last saw you. Sometimes it feels like forever, but most days it feels like yesterday since we lost you. It never gets easier. As Cole Swindell sings, you should be here. They say you're in a better place now, and I would be too if I could see your face. You are loved and missed by all, more than words could ever express. Keep sending us swans and dimes. We love you all, the three of you, to the moon and back.
We love you and miss you.
Boy Mohammed.
Dennis Mojica.
Manuel D. Mojica, Jr.
Claybear Rolando Molina.
Manuel de Jesus Molina.
Carl Molinaro.
Justin John Molisani, Jr.
Brian Patrick Monaghan.
Franklin Monahan,
John Gerard Monahan,
Kristen Lee Montanaro,
Craig Montano,
Michael G. Montesi,
Carlos Alberto Montoya,
Antonio de Jesus Montoya Valdez,
Cheryl Ann Monyak,
Thomas Carlo Moody,
Sharon Moore,
Krishna V. Murthy,
Laura Lee DeFazio Morabito,
Abner Morales,
Carlos Manuel Morales,
Paula E. Morales,
Sonia Mercedes Morales Pupalo,
Gerard P. Moran Jr.,
John Christopher Moran,
John Michael Moran,
Kathleen Moran,
Stephen P. Morello,
George William Morel,
Yvette Nicole Moreno,
Vincent S. Morello,
Richard J. Morgan,
Dorothy Morgan,
Sine Mori,
Nancy Morgenstern,
Leonel Geronimo Morocho,
Blanca Robertina Morocho, Dennis Gerard Maroney,
and my father, James J. Strain Jr.,
and my father, Todd Douglas Polino, and my aunt, Kayleen Elizabeth Pizzuti. Lynn Irene Morris,
Odessa V. Morris,
Seth Allen Morris,
Steve Morris,
Christopher Martell Morrison,
Ferdinand V. Morone,
William David Moxell,
Brian A. Moss,
Marco Matroni,
Cynthia Modis Wilson,
Yuri A. Muchinsky,
Jude Joseph Musa,
Peter Mutos,
Damian O'Neill Mowat,
Teddington H. Moy,
Christopher Michael Mazzillo,
Stephen Vincent Mulderry,
Richard T. Muldowney Jr.,
Michael D. Mullen,
Dennis Michael Mulligan,
Peter James Mulligan,
Michael Joseph Mullen,
James Donald Munhall,
Nancy Muniz,
Francisco Hilario Munoz,
Carlos Mario Munoz,
Teresa Munson,
Robert Michael Morak,
Cesar Augusto Murillo,
Mark A. Morello,
Brian Joseph Murphy,
Charles Anthony Murphy,
Christopher W. Murphy,
Edward Charles Murphy,
James F. Murphy IV,
James Thomas Murphy,
Kevin James Murphy,
Patrick Jude Murphy,
Patrick Sean Murphy,
Raymond E. Murphy,
and my beloved father, Richard Barry Ross, and dearest friend, Stacy Lee Sanders. Your legacies of kindness, extraordinary compassion, boundless generosity, laughter, and happy tears are enduring and continue to inspire us. Though we did not get enough time with you, we treasure what we had and are so grateful that we had it. May both of your memories be for a blessing, especially for peace.
and my grandfather, Richard Barry Ross. I'm sad I never got to meet you, but I know you're in a better place now, and I hope you're sailing up there with the traveler on big, fluffy, happy cloud oceans.
Robert Eddie Murphy Jr.,
John Joseph Murray,
John Joseph Murray,
Susan D. Murray,
Valerie Victoria Murray,
Richard Todd Myrie,
Louis J. Nackey II,
Robert B. Nagel,
Mildred Rose Naiman,
Takuya Nakamura,
Alexander John Robert Napier,
Frank Joseph Naples III,
John Philip Napolitano,
Catherine Ann Nardella,
Mario Nardone Jr.,
Monica K. Narula,
Sean M. Nassane,
Narendine Nath,
Karen Susan Navarro,
Joseph M. Navis,
Francis Joseph Nazario,
Glenroy I. Neblet,
Raymond Marcus Neblet,
Jerome O. Ned,
Lawrence F. Nadell,
Luke G. Nee,
Pete Negron,
Lori N. Nera,
Ann N. Nelson,
David William Nelson,
Ginger Risco Nelson,
James A. Nelson,
Michelle Ann Nelson,
Gerard Terrence Nevins,
Oscar Francis Nesbitt,
Gerard Terrence Nevins,
Renee Techerot Newell,
Christopher C. Newton,
Christopher Newton Carter,
Nancy Ewan Go,
and my father, Port Authority Police Lieutenant Robert Seary. We miss you every day. 15 years have gone by way quick, and we love you. We think about you always. Please continue to guide us from above, and thank you for being an American hero. I love you.
and my uncle Pedro Francisco Checo. We miss you so much, Theo. We all love you too.
Kang Neguk Negoan,
Jody Tepedino Nichilo,
Kathleen Ann Nokosha,
Martin Stewart Niederer,
Alphonse Joseph Niedenmeyer,
Frank John Needstadt Jr.,
Gloria Nieves,
Juan Nieves Jr.,
Troy Edward Nilsson,
Paul Nimbley,
John Ballantine Niven,
Catherine McGarry Nowak,
Curtis Terrence Noel,
Michael A. Noeth,
Daniel R. Nolan,
Robert Walter Noonan,
Jacqueline June Norton,
Robert Grant Norton,
Daniela Rosalia Notaro,
Brian Christopher Novotny,
Soachi Numata,
Brian Nunez,
Jose Nunez,
Jeffrey Roger Nussbaum,
James A. Oakley,
Dennis Patrick Oberg,
James P. O'Brien Jr.,
Michael P. O'Brien,
Danielle O'Callahan,
Timothy Michael O'Brien,
Diana J. O'Connor,
Keith Kevin O'Connor,
Richard J. O'Connor,
Amy O'Doherty,
Marnie Pont O'Doherty,
Douglas E. Elschlager,
Takashi Ogawa,
Albert Ogletree,
and for my uncle, Stephen Gerard Hoffman, identical twin to my godfather, Gregory Hoffman. Your memory lives on in the stories I hear from all of my relatives. If you could put in a good word, I'm applying to med school, so tell the big man to look out for me. We love you. Rest easy until we meet again.
And my father, Port Authority Police Officer Walwyn Wellington Stewart Jr. Daddy, Mom and I love and miss you very much and hope to see you again one day in heaven.
Philip Paul Ognebene,
John A. Ogonowski,
James Andrew O'Grady,
Joseph J. Ogren,
Thomas G. O'Hagan,
Samuel Otis,
Patrick J. O'Keefe,
FDNY Captain William O'Keefe,
Gerald Michael Olcott,
Gerald Thomas O'Leary,
Christine Ann Olender,
Linda Mary Oliva,
Edward K. Oliver,
Leah Elizabeth Oliver,
Eric Taub Olson,
Jeffrey James Olson,
Barbara K. Olson,
Maureen Lyons Olson,
Stephen John Olson,
Matthew Timothy O'Mahony,
Tashihiro Onda,
Seamus L. O'Neill,
John P. O'Neill,
Peter J. O'Neill Jr.,
Sean Gordon Corbett O'Neill,
Betty Ann Ong,
Michael C. Opperman,
Christopher T. Orgilowitz,
Margaret Quinn Orlowski,
Virginia Ann Ormiston,
Ruben S. Ornendo,
Kevin M. O'Rourke,
Ronald Orsini,
Peter Keith Ortali,
Juan Ortego Campos,
Jane Marie Orth,
Alexander Ortiz,
David Ortiz,
Emilio Pete Ortiz,
Pablo Ortiz,
and my uncle Robert Thomas Lenane. You are missed more than words can describe. Give everyone in heaven a hug from us. Keep an eye out for all of us down here. Even though you're not with me, and if you were, I know you'll be by my side every day of my life.
And my cousin, Terrence D. Kazani. I was just a baby 15 years ago, but you've always been a part of my life. You are loved and missed by our family every single day. Aunt Tracy and Uncle Marty hold you close in their hearts. And my cousin, Peter Gansey. You are a hero to our family and to New York City.
Paul Ortiz Jr.,
Sonia Ortiz,
Masaru Osei,
Patrick J. O'Shea,
Robert William O'Shea,
Elsie Carolina Osorio Oliva,
James R. Ostrowski,
Timothy Franklin O'Sullivan,
Jason Douglas Oswald,
Michael John Otten,
Isidro D. Ottenwalder,
Michael Shun U,
Todd Joseph Oida,
Jesus Ovales,
Peter J. Owens Jr.,
Adianas Oyola,
Angel M. Pabon Jr.,
Israel Pabon Jr.,
Roland Pacheco,
Michael Benjamin Packer,
Diana B. Padro,
Deepa Pakala,
Jeffrey Matthew Palazzo,
Thomas Palazzo,
Richard A. Palazzolo,
Oreo Joseph Palmer,
Frank Anthony Palumbo,
Alan N. Palumbo,
Christopher Matthew Panattiere,
Dominique Lisa Pandolfo,
Jonas Martin Panic,
Paul J. Pansini,
John M. Paolillo,
Edward Joseph Papa,
Salvatore T. Papasso,
James Nicholas Papa George,
Marie Papalardo,
Vinod Kumar Parakat,
Vijaya Shankar Paramasote,
Nitin Ramesh Parandkar,
and my brother-in-law, Steve Policino. Steve, 15 years, and we just plain miss you. There's just no other way to say it. 15 years, and the miss is always the same size, the same shape, the same feeling. 15 years, and my mind still talks to you. My heart still looks for you. My soul knows you are at peace. 15 years, and I've learned there is no other side of grief. Grief is not something that you complete, but rather something you endure. You do not finish it. Steve, 15 years, and we have learned to accept the way things are. 9/11 taught us that what happens in this world is bigger than us. We have learned to greet the good and the bad of this world with open arms. That lesson was strongly tested in 2013 when we were faced with the loss of your wife, my sister Jane. She left us to be with you. Knowing you were there with open arms to greet her made it easier for us to accept this loss. The family thanks you for that. For now, we continue one day at a time, greeting the good with the bad while waiting for the next rainbow to appear. Rainbows always come. We know they do. They come in the sizes of Nicholas, Rocco, your grandchildren, Liev, your great-grandnephew. This tiny new generation brings us hope. Rainbows come in the shape of the upcoming weddings of our nephew Philip and your daughter Celeste. And the rainbows are certainly here in all shapes and sizes on this beautiful plaza. Steve and Jane, continue to enjoy the happily ever after you deserve. Please keep watching over us and giving us those signs of hope. You are always in our hearts until we meet again. God bless you all.
And our beloved son, Honor and Paige's beloved brother, Wells Remy Crowther, the man in the red bandana. Wells, you saved many lives on September 11th. Your example of courage and selfless care for others continues to inspire and to bring good into this world. Thank you, Wells, for the gift of your final hour.
Hardai Parbu,
James Wendell Parham,
Deborah Marie Paris,
George Paris,
Yi Young Park,
Philip Lacey Parker,
Michael Elaine Parks,
Robert E. Parks, Jr.,
Hashmukh C. Pamor,
Robert Parrow,
Diane Marie Parsons,
Leobardo Lopez Pascual,
Michael J. Pascumo, Jr.,
Gerard Hughes Haskins,
Horace Robert Passananthi,
Suzanne H. Passaro,
Avnish Ramanbai Patel,
Dipti Patel,
Manish Patel,
Stephen Bennett Patterson,
James Matthew Patrick,
Manuel D. Petrosino,
Bernard E. Patterson,
George Clifford Patterson, Jr.,
Sierra Marie Patty,
Robert E. Pattison,
James Robert Paul,
Patrice Paz,
Victor Hugo Paz,
Stacy Lynn Peak,
Richard Allen Perlman,
Darrell V. Parasol, Jr.,
Thomas Nicholas Pecorelli,
Thomas Pedicini,
Todd Douglas Polino,
Mike Adrian Pelletier,
Anthony G. Peluso,
Angel R. Pina,
Robert Henninger,
Richard Al Penny,
and to my brother, Patrick Joseph Busey, we got it right. Your faith, our faith, and your dedication from above, Susan has done a phenomenal job raising Sloan and Will. With the support and love of the Doherty, Busey, and Whalen families, I still hear you, brother.
and my brother, John Anthony Candela.
We love you. We miss you. We'll see you again.
I think you go.
Salvatore F. Pepe,
Carl Allen B. Peralta.
Robert David Peraza,
John A. Picanti, Jr.
Alejo Perez,
Angel Perez.
Angela Susan Perez,
Anthony Perez.
Ivan Antonio Perez,
Nancy E. Perez.
Barry Berenson Perkins,
Joseph John Perencino.
Edward J. Perata,
Imelda H. Perry.
Glenn C. Perry Sr.,
John William Perry.
Franklin Allen Pershup,
Danny Pesci.
Michael John Pescherine,
Davin N. Peterson.
Donald Arthur Peterson,
Jean Hoadley Peterson.
William Russell Peterson,
Mark James Petroselli,
Philip Scott Petty,
Glenn Karen Pettit,
Dominic A. Pazzulo,
Kayleen Elizabeth Pizzuti,
Kevin J. Pfeiffer,
Tu An Pham,
Kenneth John Phelan Sr.,
Snee Ann Phillip,
Eugenia McCann Piantieri,
Ludwig John Picaro,
Matthew Paserno,
Joseph Opick,
Christopher J. Pickford,
Dennis J. Pierce,
Bernard Petronico,
Nicholas P. Petrante.
and my father is Merlin Antonio Salcedo, who is deeply loved and missed every single day.
And to my brother, Lieutenant Jeffrey P. Walls, Ladder 9, FDNY. 15 years ago, Jeff, you and so many others were taken away from us way too soon and without any warning. We became one family, one country, and slowly, moment by moment, we began to move forward. Jeff, you are missed more than you know, but just remember one thing. Time passes by quickly, but you're forever in our hearts.
Theodoros Pigas,
Susan Elizabeth Pinto,
Joseph Piscaldo,
Christopher Todd Pittman,
Joshua Michael Piver,
Robert R. Plaisir III,
Zandra F. Plaisir,
Joseph Plumetallo,
John M. Pocher,
William Howard Paulman,
Lawrence Michael Polash,
Thomas H. Polimus,
Steve Felicino,
Susan M. Polio,
Darren H. Pantel,
Joshua Ayusa Poptine,
Giovanna Porras,
Anthony Portillo,
James Edward Pototori,
Daphne Paletsis,
Richard N. Polis,
Stephen Emmanuel Polis,
Brandon Jerome Powell,
Scott Allen Powell,
Sean Edward Powell,
Antonio Dorsey Pratt,
Gregory M. Petriozzi,
Wanda Ivalise Prince,
Vincent A. Princiota,
Kevin M. Pryor,
Everett Martin Proctor III,
Carrie Beth Projan,
David Lee Purim,
Richard A. Prunty,
John Foster Puckett,
Robert David Polagisi,
Edward F. Pullis,
Patricia Ann Puma,
Jack D. Punches,
Hemaneth Kumar Putar,
and my brother Stephen Francis Schlag,
and my uncle Francis John Sudoka.
Joseph J. Pisior Jr.,
Edward R. Pycon,
Christopher Quackenbush,
Lars Peter Quelbin,
Lincoln Quapp,
Beth Ann Quigley,
Patrick J. Quigley IV,
Michael T. Quilty,
James Francis Quinn,
Ricardo J. Quinn,
Carol Millicent Robele,
Christopher Peter Anthony Raccaniello,
Leonard J. Regalia,
Eugene J. Raggio,
Laura Marie Raganisi Snick,
Michael Paul Ragusa,
Peter Frank Ramundi,
Harry A. Rains,
Lisa J. Rains,
Etisham Raja,
Valsa Raju,
Edward J. Rawl,
Lucas Rambusek,
Maria Ramirez,
Harry Ramos,
Vishnu Ramsarup,
Deborah A. Ramsauer,
Lorenzo E. Ramsey,
Alfred Todd Renke,
Adam David Rand,
Jonathan C. Randall,
Shreyas S. Ranganath,
Ann T. Ransom,
Faina Rappaport,
Rhonda Sue Rasmussen,
Robert A. Rasmussen,
Armenia Rasul,
R. Mark Rasweiler,
Marcia D. Ratchford,
David Allen James Rathke,
and my cousin, Fire Captain Brian Christopher Hickey. We'll see you on the other side, Brian.
and my aunt Lillian Caceres. Titi, we miss you every single day, and I know you would be so proud of the woman Joanna has become. Last year, she became a wife, and 5 fabulous months ago, she became a mother of a beautiful little girl named after you. And I know she will grow up being just as caring, loving, and kind-hearted as you were.
William Ralph Robb,
Gerard F. Rousey,
Alexei Razuvayev,
Gregory Rader,
Sarah Ann Redheffer,
Michelle Marie Reed,
Judith Ann Reese,
Donald J. Regan,
Robert M. Regan,
Thomas Michael Regan,
Christian Michael Otto Regenhard,
Howard Reich,
Greg Reedy,
James Brian Riley,
Kevin O. Riley,
Timothy E. Riley,
Joseph Reyna Jr.,
Thomas Barnes Reinig,
Frank Bennett Reisman,
Joshua Scott Rice,
Karen Renda,
John Armando Reo,
Richard Cyril Riscorla,
John Thomas Resta,
Sylvia Sanpio Resta,
Martha M. Reski,
David E. Reddick,
Todd H. Rubin,
Luis Clodoaldo Ravila Mir,
Eduvigus Reyes Jr.,
Bruce Albert Reynolds,
John Frederick Rhodes,
Francis Saverio Riccardelli,
Rudolph N. Riccio,
Anne Marie Riccoboni,
David Harlow Rice,
Eileen Mary Rice,
Kenneth Frederick Rice III,
Cecilia E. Richard,
Vernon Allard Allen Richard,
and my uncle, a proud Canadian, Kenneth William Baznicki. Most people tell me today that I was too young to remember the day. Most people tell me I was probably even too young to remember the man my uncle once was. But the reality is, I was a 5-year-old boy who was pulled out of school to sit on the edge of his couch and watch the same horror that the entire world watched that day. I sat there like millions of you, in shock, confused of why anyone would do this. And my wide eyes turned to tears when I was told who wouldn't be coming home because he was stuck on the 106th floor of the North Tower. Regardless of how old I was, that day will always be a nightmare burnt deep into my mind. Most people will always assume that people of my time won't remember. Well, I remember. And as for my Uncle Ken, I have more memories than one could expect a 5-year-old to have with his uncle. He has been someone I look up to. He is the standard for who I strive to be someday. A testament that hard work leads to great success, and a man who his whole family, certainly his nephew, idolizes. Let it be known, Uncle Ken, you will never know the impact you have on my life.
and my husband, Elvin Romero. There is a beautiful quote by the poet Khalil Gibran that says, "When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart. and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Elvin, you were our heart and our joy. You brought a joy into this world that left a lasting impression on everyone you met. Gabby, Alex, and I were truly blessed to be yours. We love you, we miss you, and we will never forget.
Claude Daniel Richards.
Gregory David Richards.
Michael Richards.
Vanessa Ernsha Richards.
Jimmy Riches.
Alan J. Richmond.
John M. Rigo.
Frederick Charles Rimley III.
Rose Mary Riso.
Moises N. Rivas.
Joseph R. Ravelli Jr.
Carmen Alicia Rivera.
Isaias Rivera.
Juan William Rivera.
Linda Evelise Rivera.
David E. Rivers.
Joseph R. Reverso.
Paul V. Rita.
John Frank Rizzo.
Stephen Louis Roche.
Joseph Roberto.
Leo Arthur Roberts.
Michael E. Roberts.
Michael Edward Roberts.
Donald Walter Robertson Jr.
Jeffrey Robinson.
Michelle Lee Jean Robotham.
Donald Arthur Robson.
Antonio A. Rocha.
Raymond James Rocha.
Laura Rockefeller.
John Michael Rodak.
Antonio Jose Rodriguez.
Anthony Rodriguez.
Carmen Milagros Rodriguez.
Gregory E. Rodriguez.
Marcia A. Rodriguez.
Myra Valdez Rodriguez.
Richard Rodriguez.
David Bartolo Rodriguez Vargas.
And my uncle and godfather, Donald Richard Gavigan Jr. I really wish I got the chance to meet you. And I know you were waiting for Nana when she went to heaven this March. We love you both.
And my uncle, John Gerard Farrell. Mom told me when I was younger that I reminded her of you, and I couldn't be prouder. We miss you.
Matthew Rogan.
Jean Destrehan Roger.
Carly Rogers.
Scott William Roner.
Keith Michael Roma.
Joseph M. Romagnolo.
Efrain Romero Sr.
Elvin Romero.
James A. Romito.
Sean Paul Rooney.
Eric Thomas Ropato.
Aida Rosario.
Angela Rosario.
Mark H. Rosen.
Brooke David Rosenbaum.
Linda Rosenbaum.
Cheryl Lynn Rosenbaum.
Lloyd Daniel Rosenberg.
Mark Lewis Rosenberg.
Andrew Ira Rosenblum.
Joshua M. Rosenblum.
Joshua Allen Rosenthal.
Richard David Rosenthal.
Philip Martin Rosenzweig.
Daniel Rossetti.
Richard Barry Ross.
Norman S. Rosenau.
Nicholas P. Rosomando.
Michael Craig Rothberg.
Donna Marie Rothenberg.
Mark David Rothenberg.
James Michael Rue.
Nicholas Charles Alexander Rowe.
Edward V. Rowenhorst.
Judy Roulette.
Timothy Allen Roy Sr.
Paul G. Ruback.
Ronald J. Rubin.
Joanne Rubino.
David M. Ruddle.
And my cousin, Andrew Desperito, Lieutenant FDNY, Engine 1, formerly of NYPD. I spoke to one of his guys, the last one to see him. He said that got everybody out, had to go back in for one more woman. And that's what firemen do. So God bless the FDNY, the NYPD, because we really needed you on a day like that. And thank you to New York City for making a place like this that we can remember and people could come from all over to see what happened on this day 15 years ago. And for all my family that can't bring it to themselves to come down here, Andrew, we love you, a true hero.
And to my two equally lovely and beautiful first cousins, Judy Hazel Santillan Fernandez and Maria Teresa Concepcion Santillan, we love and miss you so much. It's been 15 years, yet the pain and sorrow is still felt by your family, relatives, and friends, most especially your parents from Marita's side, Expedito and Esther Santillan, your brothers Victor and Raymond Santillan, and from Judy's side, parents Cirillo and Corazon Fernandez, your brother Richard Fernandez, and your sister Emma Fernandez Reagan. We love and miss you so much, and we always continue to pray for you. And please continue to be our guardian angels. Give us the strength to live each day, leaving the past, tragic past behind us. Thank you for the fond memories, and moments shared will always be embedded in us. We all miss you dearly. Kisses to everyone, to you both, and to all our dear ones in heaven. God bless us all.
Bart Joseph Ruggieri.
Susan A. Ruggiero.
Adam Keith Rualter.
Gilbert Ruiz.
Robert E. Russell.
Stephen P. Russell.
Stephen Harris Rusin.
Michael Thomas Russo Sr.
Wayne Allen Russo.
William R. Ruth.
Edward Ryan.
John Joseph Ryan.
Jonathan Stephen Ryan.
Matthew L. Ryan.
Tatiana Rishova.
Christina Sunga Ryuk.
Thierry Sada.
Jason Elazar Sabag.
Thomas E. Sabella.
Scott H. Saber.
Charles E. Sabin Sr.
Joseph Francis Sacerdote.
Jessica Lee Sachs.
Francis John Sadocha.
Jude Elias Safi.
Brock Joel Sefranoff.
Edward Saya.
John Patrick Salamone.
Marjorie C. Salamone.
Hernando Rafael Salas.
Juan G. Salas.
Esmeralyn Antonio Salceda.
John Pepe Salerno.
Rama Sali.
Richard L. Salinardi Jr.
Wayne John Solomon.
Nolbert Solomon.
Catherine Patricia Salter.
Frank G. Salvatierra.
Paul Richard Salvio.
And my father, Japhet Jesse Ayi. Daddy, you lived your 49 years with honor, glorious purpose, and never-ending care. Your family, your friends, your community miss you tremendously. We keep our precious memories with you in our hearts forever. I love you, Daddy.
And my uncle, Christopher Edward Fawnin. We love you, we miss you, and you will be in our hearts always.
Samuel Robert Salvo Jr.
Carlos Alberto Samaniego.
John P. Sammartino,
James Kenneth Samuel Jr.,
Michael San Philip,
Hugo M. Sané,
Alba Cynthias Sanfrance Sanchez,
Jacqueline Patrice Sanchez,
Jesus Sanchez,
Raymond Sanchez,
Eric M. San,
Stacy Leigh Sanders,
Herman S. Sandler,
Jim Sands Jr.,
Eileen J. Santiago,
Kirsten Reese Santiago,
Maria Teresa Concepcion Santiano,
Susan Gale Santo,
Christopher A. Santora,
John August Santor,
Mario L. Santoro,
Rafael Umberto Santos,
Rufino C.F. Santos III,
Victor J. Saraceni,
Callion K. Sarkar,
Chappelle Renee Stewart Sarker,
Paul F. Sar,
Deepika Kumar Satolore,
Gregory Thomas Sarcedo,
Susan M. Sauer,
Anthony Sabas,
Vladimir Savinkin,
John Michael Bararbo,
David M. Scales,
Robert Louis Scandal,
Michelle Scarpita,
Dennis Sarkas,
John Albert Shart,
John G. Shar,
Fred C. Sheffield Jr.,
Angela Suzanne Scheinberg,
Scott Mitchell Schertzer,
Sean Scheichel,
Stephen Francis Schlag,
Robert A. Schlegel,
John Schlissel,
Karen Heller Schmidt,
Ian Schneider,
Thomas G. Scholas,
Frank G. Scott Jr.,
Gerard Patrick Schrang,
Jeffrey H. Schreier,
John T. Schreier,
Susan Lee Schuler,
Edward W. Schrunk,
Mark Evan Schurmeyer,
John Bunkart Schwartz,
Mark Schwartz,
Adriana Victoria Schwerda,
Raphael Skorka,
and my Aunt Margaret. Infinite love for family, friends, and life.
and for my late husband, Mark Kaleo, my late brother-in-law, Stephen J. Kaleo, and my brother, Thomas Pedicini. 15 years later, the love you three shared while you were alive still lives on in all of us. You are never forgotten, always cherished, and forever remain a part of us. Mark, Stephen, and Tommy, please continue to give us your strength and hope. In return, we will use the rest of our lives to honor yours, remembering to remain kind, compassionate, and loving to each other and the world. Nanny and Nana and Granddad, we recently said goodbye to you, but you both, all three of you, said hello to your boys. Thank you.
Janice M. Scott,
Randolph Scott,
Christopher J. Scudder,
Arthur Warren Scullin,
Michael H. Seaman,
Margaret M. Seeliger,
Anthony Segara,
Carlos Segara,
Jason M. Sexer,
Matthew Carmen Salito,
Michael L. Selves,
Howard Selwyn,
Larry John Senko,
Arturo Angelo Sereno,
Frankie Serrano,
Marion H. Serva,
Elena Sesanova,
Adele Christine Sessa,
Sita Namala Senarin,
Karen Lynn Seymour,
Davis Greer Cessna Jr.,
Thomas Joseph Scroy,
Jayesh Centennial Shah,
Khalid M. Shahid,
Muhammad Shahjahan,
Gary Shamay,
Muhammad Shahjahan,
Dan F. Schnauer,
Earl Richard Shanahan,
Catherine Ann Shatzoff,
Neil Shastri,
Jeffrey James Shaw,
Barbara Shaw,
Daniel James Shea,
Robert John Shea Jr.,
Kathleen Shearer,
Joseph Patrick Shea,
Linda June Sheehan,
Robert M. Scherer,
Antoinette M. Sherman,
Hagei Sheffi,
Atsushi Shiratori,
John Anthony Sherry,
Mark Schulman,
Thomas Joseph Schubert,
Alan Abraham Schwartzstein,
C. Wong Shum,
Joanna Sigmund,
Clarence Shelley Siegel Schwartz,
Gregory Sikorsky,
Diane T. Signer,
David Silver,
Stephen Gerard Siller,
Nasima H. Simji,
Craig A. Silverstein,
Diane M. Simmons,
Bruce Edward Simmons,
George W. Simmons,
Donald D. Simmons,
Kenneth Allen Simon,
Arthur Simon, and my sister and best friend, Larissa Salon Taylor. She would want me to thank the 9/11 Memorial, but also all my family and friends who supported the scholarship in her name, as well as supported her oldest daughter, Tatiana, who is now married, as well as her two daughters, Imani and Cyan, who are now in college. Thank you to everyone.
and my uncle and godfather, Bernard Petronico. We miss you, and we think about you every single day, and we love you so much.
Michael J. Simon,
Paul Joseph Simon,
Marianne LaQuarrie Simone,
Barry Simowitz,
Jane Louise Simpkin,
Jeff Lyle Simpson,
Cheryl D. Sincock,
Kamala Day Kami Sin,
Roshan Ramesh Singh,
Thomas E. Sinton III,
Peter A. Syracuse,
Meryl F. Sisopoulos,
Joseph Michael Sisolak,
John P. Scala,
Francis Joseph Skidmore, Jr.,
Toyana Corliss Skinner,
Paul Albert Skurzipek,
Christopher Paul Slattery,
Vincent Robert Slavin,
Robert F. Sklywack,
Paul Kenneth Sloan,
Stanley S. Smagala Jr.,
Wendy L. Small,
Greg H. Smallwood,
Catherine T. Smith,
Daniel Lawrence Smith,
Gary F. Smith,
George Eric Smith,
Heather Lee Smith,
James Gregory Smith,
Jeffrey R. Smith,
Joyce Patricia Smith,
Carl T. Smith Sr.,
Kevin Joseph Smith,
Leon Smith Jr.,
Maura Ann Smith,
Monica Rodriguez Smith,
Rosemary A. Smith,
Bonnie Shahade Smithwick,
Rochelle Monique Snell,
Christine Ann Snyder,
Diane Bullis Snyder,
Leonard J. Snyder Jr.,
Astrid Elizabeth Sohan,
Sushil S. Solanki,
Ruben Solaris,
Naomi Leah Solomon,
Daniel W. Song,
Marie Ray Supper,
Michael Charles Sort Essay,
Fabian Soto,
Timothy Patrick Sulas,
Gregory Thomas Spagnoletti,
Donald F. Spanato Jr.,
Thomas Sparacchio,
John Anthony Spataro,
Robert W. Spear Jr.,
Robert Spiceman,
Maynard S. Spence Jr.,
George Edward Spencer III,
and my brother Peter K. Ortali. We miss you so much, and we honor you, try to honor you every day by modeling your kindness, your generosity, your openness, and your love. God bless America, and thank you to all who have given so much so that we can have this country that we call home. PKO 10.
and my aunt Danielle Casulas. Dear Danielle, I never had the chance to meet you, but I've heard so many wonderful things about you and how alike we are, such as having multiple alarms to wake us up in the morning, as my dad mentioned to me a few times. We also have our passion to run in common. One day I want to run the New York Marathon in your memory, but until that day comes, every run I go on leading up to the marathon, I will think of you, and I will carry you in my heart forever. You are loved, you are missed, and you will never be forgotten.
Robert Andrew Spencer,
Mary Rubina Sperando,
Frank Spinelli,
William E. Spitz,
Joseph Patrick Spohr, Jr.,
Klaus Johannes Sprachkamp,
Saranya Saran,
Fitzroy St. Rose,
Michael F. Sibyl,
Lawrence T. Stack,
Timothy M. Stackpole,
Richard James Stadelberger,
Eric Adam Stallman,
Gregory Stike,
Alexandru Livio Stan,
Corina Stan,
Mary Dominica Stanley,
Anthony Storita,
Jeffrey Stark,
Derek James Statkovicius,
Patricia J. Stats,
Craig William Staub,
William V. Steckman,
Eric Thomas Steen,
William R. Steiner,
Alexander Robbins Steinman,
Edna L. Stevens,
Andrew Sturgiopoulos,
Andrew J. Stern,
Norma Lang Sturl,
Martha Jane Stevens,
Michael James Stewart,
Richard H. Stewart, Jr.,
Sanford M. Stoller,
Douglas Joel Stone,
Lonnie J. Stone,
Jimmy Neville Story,
Timothy Stout,
Thomas Strata,
James J. Strain, Jr.,
Edward W. Straub,
George J. Stroud, Jr.,
Edward Thomas Strauss,
Stephen R. Strauss,
Larry L. Strickland,
Stephen F. Strobert,
Walwyn Wellington Stewart, Jr.,
Benjamin Suarez,
David Scott Suarez,
Ramon Suarez,
Dino Xavier Suarez Ramirez,
Yoichi Sumiyama Sugiyama,
William Christopher Sugra,
Daniel Thomas Suhr,
David Mark Sullins,
Christopher P. Sullivan,
Patrick Sullivan,
Thomas G. Sullivan,
Hilario Soriano Sumaya, Jr.,
James Joseph Suazo,
and my beautiful mother, Barbara P. Walsh. Mom, I miss you so much. Our holidays and our vacations will never be the same. But as you would want, we carried on. Daddy, Jennifer, Jimmy, Jeffrey, miss you terribly. And you have been so proud of all of your grandchildren, Alexandra, Jillian, Kira, Evan, Lauren, Brooke, Cameron, and Lindsay. They would make you so proud. We know that you're watching from up above, Mom. Give us the strength, and please continue to give us the signs. We love you, God bless you, and God bless America.
And my nephew, Port Authority Police Officer Christopher Charles Amoroso. Chris, raw emotions rise to the surface every year when we meet here. For the memory of what happened that day will never, ever be forgotten and will never leave us. Just know that while we continue to mourn your loss, we also make sure to celebrate your life and your smile. On behalf of your sister, your mom and dad, all your relatives, and your great friends, we love you, we miss you, and we will never forget you. You are our hero.
Colleen M. Sapinski.
Robert Sutcliffe.
Celine Sutter.
Claudia Suzette Sutton.
John Francis Sweeney.
Christine M. Swearson.
Brian David Sweeney.
Madeline Amy Sweeney. Kenneth J. Swenson.
Oh.
Thomas Swift.
Thomas F. Swift.
Derek Ogilvy Sword.
Kevin Thomas Sozik.
Gina Stutberg.
Norbert P. Zukowski.
Harry Tabak.
Joanne C. Tabik.
Norma C. Tadai.
Michael Tadonio.
Keishiro Takahashi.
Keiji Takahashi.
Phyllis Gale Talbot.
Robert R. Telhami.
John Talagnani.
Sean Patrick Talon.
Paul Talty.
Marita Tam.
Rachel Tamares.
Hector Rogan Tamayo.
Michael Andrew Tamuccio.
Kenrichio Tanaki.
Rondell Cherie Tankard.
Michael Anthony Tanner.
Dennis Gerard Taramina Jr.
Kenneth Joseph Tarantino.
Alan Tarasaritz.
Michael C. Taro.
Ronald Tartaro.
Deborah Talva Lorello.
Darrell Anthony Taylor.
Donnie Brooks Taylor.
Hilda E. Taylor.
Kip P. Taylor.
Leonard E. Taylor.
Larissa Salone Taylor.
Michael Morgan Taylor.
Sandra C. Taylor.
Sandra Dawn Teague.
Carl W. Teepee.
Paul A. Techmeyer.
Yeshashavant Morshral Tempe.
Anthony Tempesta.
Dorothy Pearl Temple.
Stanley L. Temple.
David Gustav Peter Tangolin.
Brian John Terenzi.
Lisa Marie Terry.
Gumati Thackerdine.
Hashad Sham Date.
Michael Theodoridis.
And my cousin Tommy Joseph Kavakis, who was a firefighter. His father was a firefighter, his little brother was a firefighter, his uncle was a firefighter, his other uncle was a priest, and his other uncle, my father, was a police officer. Tommy did what he loved doing, and he died doing it, but he loved it and he served, and that's what we did, and we're all proud of him. My brother Bob and I, who were raised with him, miss him like crazy. Thank you.
And my brother, John Christopher Henwood. Happy belated 50th birthday, John. Your son Alejandro, your daughter Claudia, your wife Concha, mom and dad, Dave, Catherine, Tara, and I, and all your nieces and nephews, Daniel, Rachel, Julia, Megan, Anders, Fiona Aiden, Benjamin, and little Cecilia. We all still grieve for you. We all miss you and love you very much. You made us laugh, and you lifted us every day, and we miss you. God bless you.
Thomas F. Thurikoff Jr.,
Leslie Ann Thomas,
Brian Thomas Thompson,
Cleve Ian Thompson,
Glenn Thompson,
Nigel Bruce Thompson,
Perry A. Thompson,
Banava Alexi Thompson,
William H. Thompson,
Eric Raymond Thorpe,
Nicola Angela Thorpe,
Tamara C. Thurman,
Sal Edward Thierry Jr.,
John Patrick Cherney,
Mary Ellen Tiesi,
William Randolph Tisty,
Kenneth Tejan,
Stephen Edward Tiggy,
Scott Charles Timmis,
Michael E. Tinley,
Jennifer M. Tino,
Robert Frank Capaldi,
John James Tipping II,
David Tirado,
Hector Luis Tadaro Jr.,
Michelle Lee Titulo,
Alicia Nicole Titus,
John G. Tobin,
Richard J. Tedesco,
Otis V. Talbert,
Vladimir Tomasevic,
Stephen Kevin Thompson,
Thomas Tong,
Doris Torres,
Luis Eduardo Torres,
Amy Elizabeth Tuyen,
Christopher Michael Trina,
Daniel Patrick Trant,
Abdul Karen Trower,
Glenn J. Travers Sr.,
Walter Philip Travers,
Felicia Yvette Trilor Bass,
James Anthony Trentini,
Mary Barbara Trentini,
Lisa L. Trelatola,
Caramo Baba Chera,
Michael Angel Trinidad,
Francis Joseph Trombino,
Gregory James Trost,
Willie Q. Troy,
William P. Tesepoulos Jr.,
Zanita Valentinovna Choi,
Michael Patrick Tucker,
Lance Richard Tumulty,
Ching Ping Tung,
Simon James Turner,
Donald Joseph Tuzio,
Robert T. Twani,
Jennifer Lynn Zemas,
John G. Yodsover,
and my father, Edward F. Pullis. I love and miss you dearly, and I wish I was able to spend more time with you, but I know you're up in heaven watching over me.
And my lovely niece, Judy Hazel Santillan Fernandez. We love and miss you so much, our beautiful darling Judy. At age 27, your spirit and love lives on, especially to your parents, Cora and Lito, and your sister Emma and Brad Richard and their families. May you and all who lost their lives here will never be forgotten and forever cherished in our hearts. God bless us all. Peace and goodwill to us in all the earth. We pray that to make this world a happy place to live on. God bless America.
Tyler Victor Ugalon,
Michael A. Giuliano,
Jonathan J. Uman,
Anil Shivari Umakar,
Alan V. Upton,
Diane Marie Urban,
John Damon Vocaccio,
Bradley Hodges Vadas,
William Valcasell,
Felix Antonio Vale,
Ivan Vale,
Benito Valentin,
Santos Valentin Jr.,
Carlton Francis Valvo II,
Pendiala Vamar Krishna,
Erica H. Van Ackler,
Kenneth W. Van Auken,
R. Bruce Van Hine,
Daniel M. Van Leer,
Edward Raymond Vanacore,
John Charles Vandevanda,
Frederick T. Varachi,
Golapa Christian Varadon,
David Vargas,
Scott C. Vassell,
Aziel Ishamel Vasquez,
Ronald J. Volk,
Archangel Vasquez,
Santos Vasquez,
Peter Vega,
Sankare Sastre Velamura,
Jorge Velasquez,
Lawrence G. Velling,
Anthony Mark Ventura,
David Vera,
Loretta Ann Vero,
Christopher James Vialonga,
Matthew Gilbert Viana,
Robert Anthony Vicario,
Celeste Torres Victoria,
Joanna Vidal,
John T. Vigiano II,
Joseph Vincent Vigiano,
Frank J. Vignola Jr.,
Joseph Barry Villardo,
Clarabel Villalobos Hernandez,
Sergio Gabriel Villanueva,
Chantel Vincelli,
Melissa Renee Vincent,
Francine Ann Virgilio,
Lawrence Virgilio,
Joseph Gerard Viciano,
Joshua S. Vitale,
Maria Percoco Vola,
Lynette D. Vosgy,
Garo H. Vascajon,
Alfred Anton Bukasa,
Gregory Kamal Bruno Wackler,
Karen J. Wagner,
Mary Alice Wallstrom,
and my nephew, Robert Louis Scandoli. Rob, your wife Sheila, your beautiful girls Emma and Katie, your parents Bob and Peggy, your brother Chris, your sister-in-laws, all your aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, and friends love and miss you every day. Rob, you would be so proud of your family. We still have the Scandoli fake Christmas every year. You were the one who told your mom it doesn't matter when we celebrate, just that we celebrate as a family together. And to the 3,000 other souls lost that day, we want you to know, no matter what, race, religion, nationality, gender, all your lives mattered. God bless all our first responders. God bless our men and women in the armed service. God bless America.
and for my nephew, firefighter Kevin Michael Pryor, Squad 252. It's been 15 years, and still it doesn't seem like it was that long. And on that day, we lost a big part of our heart. You were always the life of the party. Your smile lit up our room, and your enthusiasm was just something unbelievable. Your parents miss you terribly. They love you. The rest of the family does. We think of you all the time. We feel your presence with us. We will never forget.
Honor Elizabeth Juanillo,
Gabriella Silvina Wasman,
Wendy Alice Rosario Wakeford,
Courtney Wainsworth Walcott,
Victor Wald,
Kenneth E. Waldy,
Benjamin James Walker,
Glenn Wall,
Mitchell Scott Wallace,
Peter Guider Wallace,
Robert Francis Wallace,
Roy Michael Wallace,
Jean Marie Wallendorf,
Matthew Blake Wallens,
Meta L. Waller,
John Wallace Jr.,
Barbara P. Walsh,
Jim Walsh,
Jeffrey P. Walls,
Ching Wang,
Weibin Wang,
Michael Warcola,
Stephen Gordon Ward,
Timothy Ray Ward,
James A. Waring,
Brian G. Warner,
Derek Christopher Washington,
Charles Waters,
James Thomas Waters Jr.,
Patrick J. Waters,
Kenneth Thomas Watson,
Michael Henry Way,
Todd Christopher Weaver,
Walter Edward Weaver,
Nathaniel Webb,
Dina Webster,
William Michael Weems,
Joanne Flora Weil,
Michael T. Weinberg,
Stephen Weinberg,
Scott Jeffrey Weingard,
Stephen George Weinstein,
Simon Weiser,
David M. Weiss,
David Thomas Weiss,
Chin Sun Pak Wells,
Vincent Michael Wells,
Deborah Jacobs Welsh,
Timothy Matthew Welty,
Christian Hans Rudolph Wemmers,
Sue Wee Wen,
John Joseph Winkus,
Ola D. Wangerchuk,
Peter M. West,
Whitfield West Jr.,
Meredith Lynn Whalen,
Eugene Michael Whelan,
Adam S. White,
Edward James White III,
James Patrick White,
and my uncle and godfather, Sean Caton, love you and miss you every day.
and my sister, Deborah Lynn Gibbon, and my best friend. We love you. We never forget you. Thank you for being our guardian angel, and thanks for that rainbow we saw in the reflecting pool this morning.
John Sylvester White,
Kenneth Wilburn White, Jr.,
Leonard Anthony White,
Melissa Y. White,
Maudlin A. White,
Sandra L. White,
Wayne White,
Leanne Marie Whiteside,
Firefighter Mark P. Whitford, FDNY,
Leslie A. Whittington,
Police Officer Michael T. Hooley, Port Authority,
Mary Lenz Wyman,
Jeffrey David Weiner,
William J. Wick,
Allison Marie Wildman,
Glenn E. Wilkinson,
Ernest M. Wilshire,
John Charles Willett,
Brian Patrick Williams,
Candace Lee Williams,
Crossley Richard Williams, Jr.,
David J. Williams,
David Lucian Williams,
Debbie L. Williams,
Dwayne Williams,
Kevin Michael Williams,
Louis Anthony Williams,
Louis Calvin Williams III,
Battalion Chief John P. Williamson, FDNY,
Donna Ann Wilson,
William Eben Wilson,
David Harold Winton,
Glenn J. Winnock,
Thomas Francis Wise,
Alan L. Wisniewski,
Frank Paul Wisniewski,
David Wiswall,
Sigrid Charlotte Weiss,
Michael R. Wittenstein,
Christopher J. Wodenchek,
Martin Phillips Woolforth,
Catherine Susan Wolf,
Jennifer Yen Wong,
Suchung Steve Wong,
Yin Ping Wong,
Yuk Ping Wong,
Brent James Woodall,
James John Woods,
Marvin Roger Woods,
Patrick J. Woods,
Richard Heron Woodwell,
David Terrence Woolley,
John Bentley Works,
Martin Michael Wortley,
Rodney James Wotton,
William Wren, retired.
John W. Wright, Jr.
Neil Robin Wright.
Sandra Lee Wright.
Jupiter Yambem.
Port Authority, Paul Juergens. And my brother, Thomas Edward Juergens, from the New York State Senior Court Officer. The whole family misses you, and although you never met my wife or your nephews, Jack, Charlie, Ethan, your heroic actions in life are spoken of often. Your life is memorialized by ours. We love you eternally.
And my mother, Catherine Ellen Charles. I will continue to work at the 9/11 Memorial with you in my heart, and I will try to spread the same love and compassion that you showed during your life.
John D. Yamnicki, Sr.
Suresh Yana Malda.
Vicky Yancey.
Shuyin Yang.
Matthew David Yarnell.
Myrna Yasoka.
Shakila Yasmin.
Olabishi Sadi. Leani Yi.
Kevin W. Yoakum.
Edward P. York.
Kevin Patrick York.
Raymond R. York.
Suzanne Martha Humans.
Barrington Leroy Young, Jr.
Donald MacArthur Young.
Edmund G. Young, Jr.
Jacqueline Young.
Lisa L. Young.
Elkin Ewan.
Joseph Z. Zaccoli.
Adele Agabi Zachary.
Arkady Zaltzman.
Edwin J. Zambrana, Jr.
Robert Allen Zampiri.
Mark Zangrilla.
Christopher R. Zarba, Jr.
Ira Zaslow.
Kenneth Albert Zellman.
Abraham J. Zelmanowitz.
Martin Morales Zempala Tekatel.
J. Jeng.
Mark Scott Zeppelin.
J. Yao Justin Zhao.
Yu Guan Zhang.
Evelyn Zeminski.
Michael Joseph Zinzi.
Charles Allen Zion.
Julie Lynn Zipper.
Salvatore J. Zisa.
Prokopios Paul Zois.
Joseph J. Zucala.
Andrew Stephen Zucker.
Igor Zuckelman.
And my godfather, my hero, my uncle, firefighter Gregory T. Saucedo. I apologize if I mispronounced anybody's name, but my uncle, you will never be forgotten. I love you.
And my godfather and uncle, Richard S. Gabriel. On behalf of all of my family, we will never, ever forget you. And this day is sacred to me, and it always will be. I want to especially thank all of the firefighters and other first responders, because for a long time we thought he died alone. But we later learned that firefighter Ronald Buca and Battalion Chief Oreo Palmer reached him on the 78th floor. And I have a special place in my heart for first responders, not just because my brother David is a firefighter, but because first responders and their families do so much. So thank you.
Terrence Edward Adderley Jr.
John Paul Bocci.
Yvonne Lucia Bonomo.
Sean Booker Sr.
Kelly Ann Booms.
Canfield D. Boone.
Mary Jane Booth.
Kevin L. Bowser.
Marion R. Britton.
Patrick John Brown.
Richard George Brewer.
Kenneth John Cubis.
Vincent Galucci.
Michael Gahn.
Charles William Garbarini.
Thomas J. Hetzel.
Stephen N. Highland Jr.
Lindsay Stapleton Morehouse,
Peter Allen Nelson,
Brian Edward Sweeney. And to my cousin, Port Authority Police Officer David P. Lamagne, there is not a day that goes by that our family does not think about you. We love you.
John T. Schroeder, and to my brother William H. Kelly Jr., may his kindness to all be an example to live by. If you were a stranger, he treated you like a friend. If you were a friend, he treated you like the family. Let us all treat each other as family.
نبقى مع هذه الصور التي تأتيكم مباشرة من هذا المشعر الحرام، ونستمع إلى هذه التلبيات من هذا المشعر العظيم، ونعود معكم في صورة أخرى وفي نقل آخر نتشرف بأن ننقله لكم للعالم أجمع من مشعر مزدلفة، فنبقى سويا مع هذه اللقطات لحجاج بيت الله الحرام في هذا المشعر الحرام.